Stand up, all victims of oppression, for the tyrants fear your might. Don't cling so hard to your possessions, for you have nothing if you have no rights. So come, brothers and sisters, for the struggle carries on. Listening to Mike from PA unites the world in song. So come come and rally, for this is the time and place. Join the Central Committee and unite the human race. Break down the billionaire system, bring down the bourgeoisie. To see the end of capitalism, we must set Luigi free. Demand that health care be provided, as well as housing and food security. We'll build high-speed rails and revolutions with heads of billionaires and solidarity. So come, brothers and sisters, through this struggle we'll carry on. A gift of the Central Committee is one step closer to righting the wrongs. So let's come and rally and remember that Hutch owes Mike.
Hey up, Hutch!
$1,500 because Mike was fucking right. Mike was fucking right. Mike was fucking right.
Alrighty, everybody, welcome on into the Central Committee stream with your host, Mike from PA, Gatto with the 10 bomb right as we start. How is everybody doing today? Hutch, pay up, you bitch. Welcome into the Central Committee stream with your host, Mike from PA. We are live and alive on March 14th, 2025. My Lord in heaven, we have a hype train. KLIEN, thank you for the 5 gifted subs to start off the stream. Well. Jay Divins booed? You mean JD Vance? That was,
Kill that light!
boo. So Chad, I hope you guys got the opportunity to watch me do some gaming yesterday on VO's stream. We also had a blood moon last night, so that was cool. Is my camera dying? Is it okay? Is it okay? Is it okay? Is it okay? Okay. What the fuck is going on with the webcam? Is that better? I think it's better. Okay. If only you had another camera you could switch it out with. Yeah, that would be great. Brown, thank you for the 40 months. I knew a nice new one that someone gifted. Yeah. Well, see, I have to go get a capture card. I have to get a whole bunch of equipment for it. You know, it's not plug and play. It's, you know, here's Noah getting arrested for protesting at Trump Tower. Soap Dragon says, I just resubbed, but I don't see my months. 47. Noah is a king. What a hero. All right, so what are we going to talk about today? The Democrats are losing everyone as Chuck Schumer submits to Donald Trump. Brooklyn Dad defiant. Olivia Juliana. Hutch, the most pathetic loser of all time, has flipped. There isn't anyone more pathetic and more of a loser than Hutch. And even he thinks Chuck Schumer is a loser. There are moderate House Democrats telling AOC to primary Chuck Schumer. And my personal feeling is shut up with the primary shit. If you try to primary, you're falling into the trap of the fascist right. You can't primary. We need a new party. I will explain why. Because regular people do not vote in primaries. If you want to have a populist campaign based on the regular fucking people, you have to have the elections that matter in the general election. If the election that matters is the primary, you're giving away the game. The idea that only DSA members are furious at Democrats right now isn't just a contemptuous delusion of the upper rungs of the Democratic Party. It's endemic in political journalism too, because they're serving the interest of the capitalist class, which is exactly what they're there to do. They're there to launder right-wing policy.
What do you think of the job that Chuck Schumer is doing? Would you ever challenge him, do you think?
I think that what we need right now is a united Senate Democratic caucus that can stand up for this country and not vote for cloture and not vote for this bill. And I think that the strength that we have is in this moment. Reconciliation and all of these, Republicans do not need Democratic votes for that. They need it for this. And so the strength of our leadership in this moment is going to demonstrate the strength of our caucus. And I cannot urge enough how bad of an idea it is to empower and enable Donald Trump and Elon Musk in this moment. It is dangerous and it is reckless.
Well, what do you think of the job that Chuck Schumer is doing? Would you ever challenge him, do you think?
I think
it would be foolish of AOC to make it about herself right now. That would give Chuck Schumer, the establishment, exactly what they would need. I think it would be a dumb move to be like, yeah, I'm going to primary Schumer. Like, I don't think that would be a good move. But the reality is that we've got to really.
He said, just trust your president. And I said, no.
My stomach.
Ugh. I think it's absolutely disgusting and downright revolting for you to make this much sense. I mean, I've always made this much sense. I've always been right. Like, that's what you're confused about. I've always been correct. I was correct 4 years ago. I was correct the entire Biden administration. I was correct 8 years ago. Like, the reality is that, you know, I have tried the inside game. But in my personal experiences, the Democratic Party is corrupt. And doesn't want to win. Now, I'm not saying that as hyperbole. I'm saying that as a fact. I want you to understand something, chat, that when I was more involved with electoral politics, when I did that as my full-time gig, I had a race in a swing district that the Democrats were trying to have no viable challenger against the Republican because he was a powerful Republican. And I basically... I got an extremely strong candidate, a local politician, a local elected, business owner of a successful business, progressive, longtime supporter of, Planned Parenthood. He and his wife were clinic escorts. He was good on every issue. He had a huge volunteer base, which I helped recruit hundreds of volunteers, hundreds of thousands of dollars he raised on his own. And the Democratic Party reaction, and we got a poll back. And the poll showed us up 3 points. And do you know what happened? I want you to understand. I'm going to tell you what happened. So I went to the Democratic Party leadership and the Senate campaign committee, and I provided them all the evidence. I wrote a memo. I had everything buttoned up as perfectly as you could button it up. And you know what they did? They took the entire package that I gave them and handed it to the Republican Party. I'll say that again. They took the entire package that I gave them to ask for them to, rally support for this race, and they gave it to the Republican Party. That happened to me personally. We ended up losing by 1% of the vote because the Republican member of leadership spent more money in our state Senate race than the Republican did in the congressional race in the same district, which was a swing district. I want you to understand something. The Democratic Party does not want to win. Especially they don't want to win if it's under progressive leadership. This wasn't a socialist. This guy wasn't a crank. He was just a bog standard progressive veteran business owner with a family, kids in high school, lots of volunteers. It didn't matter. It didn't even matter that he was what they consider to be an ideal candidate, right? He was too progressive. And so they handed all of our internal documents and discussions directly over to the Republican Party, which allowed them to spend millions of dollars and win by 1%. While former Democrats, and it even gets worse than that, former Democrats endorsed the Republican. The former the former head of the Pennsylvania Democratic Party endorsed the Republican. I'll say that again. It was so bad, and they were so worried the Republican was going to lose. The former head of the Pennsylvania Democratic Party endorsed the Republican with a week before the election. You guys think that I am using hyperbole when I say the Democratic Party is a controlled opposition party that doesn't want to win. That isn't my weird internet opinion. That is my opinion from working in the Democratic Party. That's the reality of what they are. And the only way you could deny it is if you are literally in denial and you don't know what you're talking about. And it is what it is. Here, I'll show you what I mean. Hassan not thinking. Wait, what happened? Constant reader. Thank you for the 521. Mike, is Mike's frame rate weird today? Yeah, no, there's something going on. I don't know what the hell happened. I don't know what's going on here. Give me a second. Let's start this off with Chuck Schumer getting interviewed.
A shutdown. Give Donald.
And it is one of the most pathetic things I've ever seen in my life.
Are split over how they will vote on the Republican plan to keep the government funded, though on Elon Musk and Donald Trump.
Genuine question. Why was Hassan so surprised to see the controlled opposition do exactly what they've always done? I could not understand how he was so surprised. I think it is actually surprising, to be honest. I don't think it's okay. It's not surprising to me. It's not surprising to me. But even people who are dyed-in-the-wool Democratic partisans are acting weird. I lowered the frame rate even more. Now we're going to. Did that help? I think that helped. Okay. Let me know if there's any problems. Honestly, my camera always has sucked. My camera has always sucked. That's one of the biggest problems with my stream. My boomer mom just told me she likes it because she thinks Trump can get away with more shit in the shutdown. Your mom is stupid. And she's watching MSNBC. That's literally it. She doesn't have... Do you think your mom knows about fucking... I mean, I'm sorry, but do you think your mom knows about, anything? Do you think she understands procedure? She understands budgetary law? What the fuck are you... Your mom thinks she knows more than, the entire Democratic Party caucus in the House? She just saw something on TV and repeated it back. Like a fucking ape. I'm sorry, your mom is a dumbass. Claudia Scheinbaum is problematic. Okay, this is...
Trump's terms.
Este es Jesús.
She's just a cringe mom, of course she has stuff like this. My mom would have the same thing. She would get Funko Pops of herself and her friend. This is just that's just what any mom would do.
Este es Jesús.
Come on. This is just, yes, a 60-year-old mom is like this. What a surprise. Kanta Fornia, thank you for the 5-tier-1. She's awesome. She's great. Never forget the generation of the person you're talking to. Never forget where people come from, because it comes out in all sorts of unexpected ways. That's all this clown does, watches clips and regurgitates it. Huh? I do political analysis. Wait a minute. I just literally told you, I mean, maybe you just got here because this is your first time chat and you've never watched me before. I literally just talked about my experience organizing in a Senate campaign where I was the political director. What are you talking about? I'm not Hutch. I'm not Destiny. I've done real politics. What are you talking about? I'm not some fucking loser who was a failed semi-pro StarCraft streamer. Can you... Jesus fucking Christ. Why do you people come in here and post like you know anything?
Trump's budget director, and this is key, is
incredible.
already reportedly preparing to ignore the spending appropriated in the bill. Some Democrats have said they will not support the plan, even if it means a government shutdown. But Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer of New York says he will support the vote basically to get the bill in a position to pass and to keep the government open.
So, one of Fetterman's staffers posted on Twitch, or on Twitter, excuse me. Thank you guys for all the support. Appreciate you. There will be another wave of DGGers coming around to talk shit. Another brigade front has hit LSF. Really? What happened? Destiny says Hassan does drama slop. Oh my god, they're back to brigading LSF still. Like, is it against the rules to bring up that Destiny is a sex pest? Because it seems like everybody is like, they're not allowed to say shit. Do you just get banned for saying he's a sex pest? I mean, Hassan definitely does. Like, everybody, like, okay, here's the thing that's really funny about Destiny. Bro, you have literally never contributed to anything in a significant way. You are not considered to be any kind of person that anyone gives a shit about. Hassan is. Deal with it, bitch. I don't know what else to say. You're just.
I was having a conversation.
God damn it, dude. The cope is insane. Hassan's drama is defending himself from smear campaigns. Yeah. Wow, I can't believe he's talking about Asmongold as Asmongold supports fascism while being an illiterate dope and tries to get all political content banned and then becomes a political streamer with no fucking self-awareness whatsoever.
For sure, the Republican bill is a terrible option. It is not a clean CR. It is deeply partisan. It doesn't address far too many of this country's needs. But I believe allowing Donald Trump to take even much more power via a government shutdown is a far worse option.
And Senator Chuck Schumer joins me now. Senator, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
Let's just start on this. I think there are a lot of people watching this right now who are confused about this decision.
Okay.
Or upset by it. So just spell out.
Oh yeah, what was I saying? I got distracted. Sorry. So a Fetterman staffer is like, Schumer's right. Dems are understandably spoiling for a fight, but this was not it. The idea that there was leverage in a shutdown was magical thinking. It'll be a gift to Doge. More people will be hurt, and it would have ended with a worse deal. Fight, but pick smart fights. What they mean is fight, but not have any leverage whatsoever. Fight, but make it symbolic. Don't put any pressure on the Republicans. That's what they mean. And I just simply replied, you are not a human being. I'd call you a worm, but at least their shit becomes dirt. You are less than a worm. You are a parasite. That was one of my better insults. I came up with that on the spot. And it's very important to understand that these pathetic fucking losers don't believe in anything.
Just give me your logic, particularly on this sort of on the one hand, on the other. What is the cost you see to the constitutional order of a shutdown that isn't already being done now?
It's a dramatic cost. Here's why, Chris. Under a shutdown, it is the executive branch, in this case Trump, Musk, Doge, and Vogt, who's head of the OMB, who we all know are authoritarians, vicious, nasty, who would have sole control over what is funded and what isn't. They get to determine what is a, quote, essential service. And they will just cut to smithereens, far greater than in the CR bill, which is a lousy bill, far greater than that, what could be funded and what couldn't. And there's no recourse. You can't go to court. This is a decision totally in the executive branch. And so it would be devastating. Why is it that Elon Musk and Donald Trump want a government shutdown? So they can take control of the government and do their vicious, horrible things. They could cut half the government. They could tell employees you're not essential and never bring them back, permanently firing them. It's a disaster. And in a few weeks, if there was a shutdown, everyone would be complaining and howling. Why did they cut? Why did they eliminate SNAP? Why did they cut so much?
Good. Good. They're destroying everything anyway, you dumbass, and people would understand it immediately. Instead of having it happen slapdashily, everybody would be like, why are the Republicans doing this? It would make it real to people instead of allowing people to be picked off one by one. This is why Chuck Schumer is a loser, because military doctrine, there's a concept known as defeat in detail. It answers the question of how, as a smaller organization or a weaker organization, do you attack an organization that's bigger than you? Because traditionally, to get a successful attack, you need to outnumber the defenders. Attacking is harder than defending. So how could a smaller force defeat a bigger army? The answer is defeat in detail. It involves operational and strategic tempo. So a defender may be larger, but if the attacker has the initiative, they have the ability to win. How do you do that? How do you win as a smaller force against a larger enemy? The answer is the idea of defeat in detail. When an organization is on the defense, it has to spread its defenders out over multiple points. So what defeat in detail does is the smaller attacker creates local superiority. It creates local superiority and defeats a section of their enemy one at a time. So let's say that one side has 10 soldiers and the other side has 5 soldiers. Or sorry, let's make it easy to divide. One side has 12 and the other side has 6, right? And they have 3 points they need to defend with their 12 soldiers. Well, they'll split the 12 up into 4 soldiers at each defensive point. Well, the attacker of 6 then goes and fights the enemy of 4 and wins. So 4 is greater than 6. 4 is greater than 6. 4 is greater than 6. You get local superiority, and that gives you the ability to beat a larger enemy. Defeat in detail. And that's exactly what Chuck Schumer is providing for the Democrats and for the government. He is allowing Trump to go one at a time at each important thing and fight it on its own. Oh, I'm going to fight the post office now. All right, I've beaten the post office. Now I'm going to fight food stamps. Okay, I've beaten food stamps. Now I'm going to fight Medicaid. And so Trump is just able to isolate one individual thing and destroy it. Oh, here's the Department of Education, one at a time. A shutdown pisses everybody off at once. Everybody is like, wait, I'm on the line. And they all join in the fight. And if what really is happening here is Chuck Schumer is saying, we can't ever win a fight. We can't ever win a fight. There is never going to be a day where he fights, ever. It's always going to be, now is not the time. Move up. Maybe we'll keep our powder dry. Because what Chuck Schumer is really communicating is that there is no powder. He has got to go.
Much of Medicaid, but they could do all that on their own. That's the problem. There is no check on them with a shutdown. That's not to say this CR bill is a good bill. It isn't. It didn't have any safeguards in it. But it would be much, much worse to have a shutdown. And my job, Chris, as leader, is to see things a little bit ahead down the road and see how horrible this would be and alert people to it.
So I want to sort of present two arguments on the other side. One of them is that it was quite, and I hear you on this. This is not an easy call. I want to be clear. I mean, I don't think it is, but you know, the AFG union, which is the largest union representing federal workers, they won a big victory today in federal court about those probationary employees who were fired. They came out against the CR, which really surprised me, right? These are the people that seem to have the most skin in the game on precisely the terms you're enunciating. And they said, the fact that this CR has no protections that will actually be followed means that we can't support it. If the people whose livelihoods are on the line say you cannot go along with this thing, why are they wrong?
I understand why they're so upset with the CR, but I disagree with them because the shutdown would be worse for their employees. They could just eliminate huge portions of government workers automatically. They could eliminate programs automatically, which they can't do on the CR. The CR has certain spending, and they can screw around with it, and they will. These guys are sons of guns. They're going to do.
In the year of our Lord 2025, saying sons of guns. Like it's 1962 children's television. Pathetic.
Funds. We had a very detailed conversation. I met with FEMA Director Cameron Hamilton earlier this week for about an hour and a half. I had a chance to
like, I mean, this is the reality of where we're going. And this is what radicalization looks like, chat. This is what radicalization looks like. Liberals losing. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. I'm being proven right again. Now that Kamala Harris was defeated, liberals are becoming even more radicalized against the Democratic Party. I'm being proven right again. Accelerationism is actually working in this case. And the reason why it was the reasonable thing to do, although accelerationism is not my strategy, it's just the reality of Now that the Democratic Party is offering itself up as a pathetic fucking loser party, the frustration with the status quo is intensifying, especially among Democrats. And that gives us an opportunity to change the Overton window, to expand it once again. I am unhappy that Donald Trump is president of the United States. I didn't want him to be president of the United States, but I said he would be, and this would be the result. So it's not always not lost. I also told you the Democrats would never fight back. The radicalization opportunities for liberals is here. And the Democrats like Chuck Schumer have sowed the seeds of that radicalization opportunity, because for years they've been saying that Donald Trump is an existential threat to democracy. Donald Trump is a fascist. Donald Trump is Hitler. They've been saying that for years. And now Donald Trump is in power and he's doing radical shit, and the Democrats won't even fight back. The liberals believe their leaders, and now they see their leaders acting in incoherent ways, inconsistent ways, and they're frustrated. And guess what? Their hatred of Donald Trump is a hell of a lot bigger than their trust in the Democrats. So now is the time to radicalize a liberal. Now is the time not to say I told you so, as tempting as it is. As tempting as it is for me to... you don't know how much I want to go into Emma Vigeland and Sam Cedars replies and say, told you so, bitch. But now is not the time for I told you so's. Okay? Now is not the time for I told you so's. Now is the time for radicalizing a liberal. Now is the time to be the bigger man, the bigger woman, the bigger NB, and offer leadership, not petulant whining, not arrogant know-it-allism, even though that's my natural state. It is the time to radicalize a normie. Now, when I say radicalize, I don't mean go at them with, 8 jargon terms about dialectical materialism and dictatorship of the proletariat. I mean, reach them where they are and say, look who's fighting back. It's the Democratic Socialists of America. You want to fight back? You need to join the Democratic Socialists of America. You need to support left-wing parties and left-wing candidates. You need to grab as many liberals and put them on the right path. The problem is that liberals are saying, I told you so. No, they're not. No, they absolutely aren't. They're mad at Chuck Schumer. This is why it's a golden opportunity. They're not talking about Kamala Harris. In fact, they're mad at Biden and Harris right now because an article just came out where Joe Biden said, no daylight, kid. And she listened. And if there's one thing that Americans hate, it's a loser. All right? And Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are fucking losers. Now, you probably don't want to say that to a liberal, like, she's a loser. It would feel really good. And trust me, I do it all the time. But now is not the time for that. To be fair, DSA ain't doing shit either. Yes, they are. The one thing that I would... DSA tries to work with the... Join a socialist organization. PSL, DSA, whatever. Actually, join both. I want you to understand something, chat. Our job right now is not to try to figure out who the winner is going to be. Our job right now is to infiltrate as many organizations as we can and yank them to the left. It is not our job to go like, I am the most correct left winger and I have picked the best organization. No. Our job right now is to join every organization and infiltrate every organization and grab leadership at every organization. That is our job. He's busy promoting his new book about why Israel rules. By placing anti-Semitism in its proper historical context and drawing from Senator Schumer's own life, the book informs Americans' understanding of the causes of the recent swell of anti-Semitic rhetoric and violence in our country. In very personal terms, it will engage with debates of the purpose and meaning of Israel and help draw a line between legitimate criticism of its government and when criticism of Israel as a Jewish homeland verges into anti-Semitism. This book is a warning, informed by the lessons of history about what could happen when the world's oldest hatred is allowed to rise unchecked. It's not. Oh, God. What a pathetic fucking loser. Anti-Semitism in America is his book deal. He has a talk with Richie Torres scheduled. This is what I'm talking about, guys. This is what I'm talking about, guys.
You got nothing to say but lie. You're lying. I'm a veteran and you don't give a f about me. You don't give a You don't get to take away our rights. You don't get to take our rights. Get off of it. You don't get to do it.
Look how many cops and bodyguards are there. Pathetic fucking losers. And the reason why these cops are able to get him out of the room is because nobody else defended him. Because people are just in bystander mode. And that is your mission. Your mission is to educate people out of bystander mode. Your point, your mission in life is to tell people that they can stand up to these people. Their authority does not exist. It only exists in your mind. That is what you need to develop. A rejection of the legitimacy of the United States government. Now, again, baby steps. Baby steps. It's important that when you're radicalizing a liberal that you always do so from the position that you could justify inside that moment. All right? It needs to be valid within the logic of that moment, right? You want to provoke oppression that is unjustifiable or extreme. You don't want to act extreme because then that makes your oppression more justifiable optically. We're in an optics war now. There will be time in the future when that will change. I am literally immune to bystander effects so much that I thought I had TISM at some point. It's made me a lot of good friends. Yeah, bystander effect is by far and away the most dangerous.
Do everything they can to hurt the government. You know what they've talked about. Elon Musk, this billionaire who cares nothing about taking people's Social Security away. This guy says that he wants to cut $2 trillion out of the federal government. A shutdown would allow him to do it. And here's another point, Chris. There's no exit ramp. Anyone who wants the shutdown, I've asked them, well, how do we get out of it? Guess who it's up to get out of it? Donald Trump, Elon Musk, Doge. So it's a horrible, it's two bad alternatives. And I respect people who actually don't want it, vote for the CR. It's awful. But with the alternative being a government shutdown, that's even worse.
So here's the other sort of way that I've heard people phrase this, right? Democrats don't control any part of the government. Right. So there's not a ton of leverage. The one thing they have leverage is in the Senate where you need a filibuster-proof majority on a cloture vote. That there's essentially an unconstitutional assault on the government right now. And I think you would agree with that,
there
right?
Is.
An assault on the constitutional
These guys are the worst.
Okay, and so you're giving them exactly what they want. They're the worst. They're assaulting the Constitution. That's why I'm passing their bill. What are you talking about? I'm sorry for yelling, but like, what the fuck? Constitutions are pieces of paper, and they're about that effective at stopping bullets. These kind of liberal institutions only stand up as long as we all collectively agree that they stand up. Now that Republicans have realized that the Democrats are not capable of fighting back, they're no longer doing democracy. Democracy is the result of a society where the factions in that society have realized or have calculated that outright war on the other factions would be too damaging and risky to themselves. And so that they have decided to declare peace and adopt these structures in order to have a reasonable and peaceful transition of power and power sharing within various factions in society. That is what democracy is used for. When one faction realizes that the other factions are incapable of resisting that faction, they will no longer use democracy. And the Republican Party has realized that the left does not exist and the centrist Democrats will not resist. And that's it. That's the ball game. You see, my kind of loyalty was loyalty to one's country, not to its institutions or its office holders. Institutions are extraneous. They are its mere clothing, and clothing can wear out, become ragged, cease to be comfortable, cease to protect the body from winter, disease, and death. To be loyal to rags, to shout for rags, to worship rags, to die for rags. That is loyalty of unreason. It is pure animal. The Democratic Party is a rag. And it's time for us to stop being loyal to a rag. Constitutions are like that's literally true. I don't know what else to say. Like, that guy's smart. What can I say? The institutions of this country a lot of the training that you get when you're growing up is, and if you like clips from PA, this is a fan channel. People are like, Mike, we need more fan channels. We need more clip channels. Well, here you go, motherfucker. Here you go, motherfucker. You should go back to a green screen. It looks better in short form content. Honestly, I was thinking about bringing my green screen back for that purpose, honestly. That being said, it feels like my channel grew a lot more without the green screen. So it's like one of those things where it's like, what is the placebo effect? I think what I need to do is just get a nice, crisp background. I was thinking about getting some sort of like burgundy, like deep blood, you know. Nightingale, the mother of nursing, was originally a germ theory denier. Of course, they all were. My favorite thing to tell people was there was a doctor who noticed that a lot of women in the hospital who were giving birth were dying, and that the local like hedge woman had a lot better outcomes when it came to childbirth. Like a lot of the hedge woman and the midwives of the villages were getting better outcomes than the like rational scientific doctors at the hospital. And he was like, this doesn't make sense. Women outperforming men, that can't possibly be logical. So he started to study it, and he realized that doctors would go from the morgue to the obstetrics wing and birth babies. And he implemented a protocol for hand washing, because the doctors would not wash their hands. They would do an autopsy, and then they would go right for the corpse to give to the birthing room. And so a lot of women were dying from getting infected with disease from bacteria that were coming from these corpses. And so he implemented a regime of hand washing, and it significantly increased the survivability of women in his hospital. Do you know what happened next? Do you guys know what that first part of the story? You're like, wow, that's a happy ending. No, it's not a happy ending. They declared him mentally insane and put him in an insane asylum because he told them they should wash their hands. And he died in like disgrace. It doesn't matter that he was right. It doesn't matter that he had scientifically demonstrated it. It was inconvenient for the powers that be. How could doctors be blamed for disease? Therefore, he had to be shut up.
And we got to fight him every step of the way. As we say in Brooklyn, Chris, every effing step of the way.
But look, Russ Vought is already telling people, but he's telling people on the floor, we are not even going to listen to this CR. This is a...
And by the way, chat, here's the guy's name. His name is Semmelweis. Postpartum infection, also known as peripural fever or childbed fever, consists of any bacterial infection of the reproductive tract following birth, and in the 19th century was common and often fatal. Semmelweis discovered that the incidence of infection could be drastically reduced by requiring healthcare workers in obstetrical clinics to disinfect their hands. In 1847, he proposed hand washing with chlorinated lime solutions at Vienna General Hospital's first obstetrical clinic, where doctors' wards had 3 times the mortality of midwives' wards. Maternal mortality rate dropped from 18% to less than 2%. And he published a book of his findings, Etiology, Concept, and Prophylaxis of Childbed Fever, in 1861. Despite his research, Semmelweis's observations conflicted with established scientific and medical opinions of the times, and ideas were rejected by the medical community. He could offer no theoretical explanation for his findings of reduced mortality due to hand washing, and some doctors were offended at the suggestion that they should wash their hands and mocked him for it. In 1865, the increasingly outspoken Semmelweis allegedly suffered a nervous breakdown and was committed to an asylum by his colleagues. In the asylum, he was beaten by the guards. He died 14 days later from a gangrenous wound on his right hand that may have been caused by the beatings. His findings earned widespread acceptance over years after his death, when Louis Pasteur confirmed the germ theory, giving Semmelweis' observations a theoretical explanation, and Joseph Lister, acting on Pasteur's research, practiced and operated using hygienic methods with great success. Incredible.
Do you know what crazy is? Crazy is majority rules. Yeah, take germs, for example. Germs? In the 18th century, no such thing. Nothing. No one ever imagined such a thing. No sane person anyway. Along comes this doctor. Semmelweis comes along. He's trying to convince people, well, other doctors mainly, that there are these teeny tiny invisible bad things called germs that get into your body and make you sick. He's trying to get doctors to wash their hands. What is this guy? crazy? Huh? Teeny tiny invisible, what do you call 'em? Germs? Huh? What? Now, cut to the 20th century, huh? Last week, as a matter of fact, right before I got dragged into this hellhole. I go in to order a burger in this fast food joint. The guy, he drops it on the floor. Jim, he picks it up, he wipes it off, he hands it to me like it was all okay. What about the germs, I say? He says, I don't believe in germs. Germs are just a plot they made up so they can sell you disinfectants and soaps. Now, he's crazy, right? See? There's no right, there's no wrong, there's only popular opinion. You believe in germs, right?
I'm not crazy.
Of course not. Of course not. You want to escape, right? That's very sane. That's very sane. I can help you.
12 Monkeys is a fun movie. New tweet. God. Never thought I thought I'd seen so many liberals this upset with at the Dems. It at least makes me happy that the voters and even high-profile liberals on here still want to fight, except Matt Iglesias, of course. You know, Chad, all I could say is now is a moment of change. A lot of people ask for change. A lot of people ask for it. A lot of people ask for it. Well, guess what, motherfuckers? It's here. This is all trying to segue to Ethan's Giardian. LOL, LOL. He had to cancel Tuesday's member show for shitting too much? Huh? Ethan KLIEN is just... He's a freak, man. Where will you stand on AOC if she primaries Schumer? Then it would depend what she says, is my answer to that. It depends on what she says. Literally. Here's Matt Crispin back before the 2020 election. And he's talking about, you know, voting for Democrats and being radical, being left, and why that leads you astray.
But this is actually a good segue to something I wanted to talk about, referencing something I had said later. Or earlier, and that is that we're talking about Chomsky, and we're talking about anarchism, libertarian socialism, and I said that Chomsky is a liberal, and people got justifiably defensive about that. People who respect Chomsky's views, people who find liberal to be an epithet and not a descriptor, people who, you know, feel a lot of value in the anarchist tradition, which is totally understandable. And now, you know, I thought about it a little more, and I realized that I misspoke. That I think the basic principle I was arguing is correct, but I did not elaborate clearly enough on why. So my basic argument there was, so some leftists like Mehdi Hasan and are dragging out, as Democrats do every 4 years, the increasingly aged Noam Chomsky. They wind him up like a fucking Teddy Ruxpin. And they ask him, should you vote for the Democrat? And he says yes. And then people like Mehdi Hasan say, see, Chomsky says vote for Biden. You're not to the left of Chomsky, so that means the left position is to vote for Biden. And now, Mehdi Hasan, I think, probably has bad faith in that. But I don't think that Chomsky has bad faith. I think a lot of, like, you see people talk about how when this comes up, they'll say, oh, you know, he was at MIT all those years and defense contracts. And, I mean, the bulk of his work and the bulk of his work on life belies that being real. I mean, he clearly says what he believes. He has paid the price for saying what he believes his whole life. And well,
I want to just pause it here and just say that Noam Chomsky's own analysis applies to him as well. Like, I think it's really possible to say, oh, wow, Olivia, etc., what changed? When you and I both know they're doing that, so Chuck steps down for another Hakeem clone. The corporatist class is willing to throw him under the bus to put it in another fresh face. Why the fuck aren't you warning people about this? Oh, my God, let's bring in Andy or Tim to take over the party. It's a siphon. Okay, I want to just let you know that your point is well made. I think my audience is fully inculcated against falling for that, right? Like, I feel like I've taught you guys how to be smart, which is why you're overreacting and yelling at me. That being said, you're looking at it the wrong way. You're looking at it like a doomer loser, which, you know, I understand. I get it. You know, times are tough. The Democrats will betray you. You know, you're right about all that. But what you should be doing is you should be looking at that and using it as energy and fuel for your side, which is, even these dumb fucks agree that Chuck Schumer has to go, right? You're not elevating them. You call them dumb fucks. Even the dumbest pieces of shit, like Liviana, they agree Chuck Schumer needs to go. It's a sign showing that there's a broad consensus, and you make sure you throw in an insult and you throw in some well poisoning when you talk about them, right? You just be like, this person is the dumbest piece of shit I've ever seen. And even they agree with all the smart people. Everybody, the dumbest Democrats to the smartest Democrats, all agree with us. Chuck Schumer should go, right? You don't go like, oh, Olivia, tell me who you think should replace Chuck. No, I get what you're saying. And of course, that's the danger, right? Of course, that's the danger. But that's why our people being pushed is the sign. And that's why a few days ago, I defended AOC. Why did I defend AOC a few days ago on that letter? Why did I have a crash out a few days ago? Do you guys remember me crashing out over people attacking AOC and going like, that's so fucking stupid, and I'd fighting with people I normally agree with? Why did I do that? Because it was wrong. Because she was on the right side of the issue. And I think it's stupid to just throw AOC or, squad members into the dumpster without a plan. AOC did a lot of dumbass shit during the election, and she's taken a lot of heat for that, and I criticized her for that. But at the same time, we need to have a nexus of organization. That's why I never abandoned Bernie either. When he was taking forever to go after Israel, I continued to apply pressure because it seems like the pressure is working. I am not a purity guy. I am a ultimate pragmatist. Do you know who I look at in history for my advice? Lenin, Mao, Xi Jinping. These are the people that inspire me. All right. I am not a purity guy. I'm a winner guy. I like parties that win, revolutions that win. I don't give a shit about pure thought. And so, yeah, if I could use AOC, then I'll use AOC. I won't throw the baby out with the bathwater. But I also understand something that's very important, which is she is necessary but not sufficient. She is there to heighten the contradictions of capitalism, even in a way she doesn't even understand. The reformists will prove the ineffectiveness of reform, or we'll get a lot of really nice concessions. Worst case scenario, we get ourselves a Green New Deal. Best case scenario, we have communist world revolution. And revolutions happen in situations of frustrated reform, not fascist oppression. So it's our job to make the conditions of frustrated reform. 3 weeks after J.D. Vance validly castigated Europe for its growing censorship, the U.S. government just told Colombia that it's put its Middle East Studies Department into receivership for 5 years and provide a detailed plan to the U.S. government on how it will do so, a.k.a. J.D. Vance did not validly argue anything. He's a liar. This is literally fascism. How does anyone rationally explain the hypocrisy? Many conservatives have and long have had a giant glaring exception to their ostensible principles called Israel, all in devotion to this one foreign country, rendering unnecessary any attempt to reconcile any of this. I don't think it's devotion to Israel or the fact that we don't want people who hate us in our country. They don't like the West. Don't come here. Israel and the U.S. are separate country. Denouncing Israel's actions does not mean you hate us in our country. Israel is a foreign country, not a U.S. state. Protesting U.S. policy also doesn't mean you hate the country, as conservatives should know better than anyone. You dumb fucking worthless sacks of shit. Glenn Greenwald is right. Colombia used to have a whole thing on their website about how ashamed they were about what they did to the 1968 protesters. And here they are doing it again.
The way I know that he bears Bryce is because he answers every email he receives, which means he is clearly at some level seeking truth. No one would do that if they weren't. So I believe Chomsky when he says that his reason gets him to voting for Biden. This is where liberalism comes in. Because I think, and you can listen to me and tell me if I'm wrong or not, I think that that Chomsky's liberalism is why I think he's wrong, first of all, about voting for Biden. And I think his liberalism, not just to say he's wrong in isolation, but you've only ever explained something if you've explained why. A lot of shit that happens on the internet is people describing a condition and then calling that an argument. You haven't made an argument until you've added the why. So I will make the proposition that, first of all, we'll take the as assumed proposition among us that, yeah, you don't have to vote for Biden. That's silly. You don't agree with him. Now let's figure out why we disagree with him on this. and this is once again how I have reasoned it out. You can tell me how you think I'm wrong if you do. And the reason I made that people said Noam Chomsky is a liberal and that came up is because they had an intuitive understanding that that was tied to his wrongness in this case. And a lot of people took that the wrong way, and they're like, oh, do you mean it like he's too stupid, or he doesn't get it, or he's too... Because when you say someone's a liberal, you mean there's some combination of stupid and greedy. There's some combination of too dumb to get the point, or materially positioned where they don't want socialism. So they're either dumb or greedy if they're liberal. Like, that's what liberal is. It's some combination of those two things. And the thing is, we all are to some extent. And how much we are depends on our fixed position in space-time and the life we've lived. So
correct. God, this is why I miss Matt so much. He puts it so concisely, which is, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. And I use liberal as an insult, but I also use it as a descriptor. I don't just throw it out there when it doesn't apply. And all of us are liberals to a certain extent, right? And I think that it is hubris to say that you're not. It is lack of self-knowledge. But that being said, I know my heart, and I know what goes on in here, and I know what gets filtered between what goes on in here and what comes out here. And my filter, if I could get 1 day of free speech, just 1 day of absolute free speech, just a single day where I was allowed to do free speech without immediate state repression, God, that's my fantasy. Actual free speech. Harvard Law School passes referendum to divest from Israel with 73% of the vote. This is the most decisive statement in support of Palestine in the law school's history. Oh my God. This is incredible. Let's fucking go. Harvard students. That's great.
When I say that Chomsky is a liberal, guess what? Karl Marx was also a liberal to different extents. Now, to the extent that Chomsky is a liberal is the extent that he has explicitly said that his vision of the world, his vision of politics, his vision of practice, all comes from Enlightenment thinking. He has said that a million times. He even points to a specific...
Marxism is a continuation. I mean, like, this is not... Okay, I don't think it's this simple, but Marxist thought is Western thought. Marx was a German, okay? Like, it comes out of that milieu. Like, it is not, like, it's very funny when people try to pretend Marxism is some sort of, like, foreign ideology to the West. No, it comes from the West. And Matt Christman argues very persuasively, in my opinion, that socialism and Marxism come from a kind of, how would I put this? It's like a distillation of the logic of Christianity, which is the equality and value of souls and, like, human beings. And like the righteousness of equality, the righteousness of and value of every human soul, which is there are plenty of belief systems that do not believe that. There are a lot of belief systems that have categories of human beings that are just permanently separated from and lesser. They mean Jewish? No, it's not. It's not Jewish. It's not a Jewish thought. We're not gonna get into that. Dialectical materialism is basically just evolutionary theory applied to society, and it is definitely part of that intellectual milieu, no doubt. Marxism is an inward critique of Western chauvinism and how that halts Enlightenment. I also think that's a strong point as well. I want to get into Marxist theory. I have read almost nothing. Where should I start? Professor Harvey has done a like read along for Capital. There's a book also called Socialism, a Manifesto for if you're extremely baby brained, by a friend of mine, Bhaskar Sankara. If you want the easiest, most baby brained introduction, like intro 101, I'm just barely getting into it, and you want to read a book, it's called Socialism, the Manifesto by Bhaskar Sankara. This is baby level shit. It's great for that. So if you're already more advanced than that, you know, I'd say read it just to understand what Bhaskar thinks. But I think it's a very good spot. And we have all sorts of resources in the Discord as well. I like the Socialist Manifesto personally, but it might be a little bit dated as well, but it is what it is.
Relatively obscure German humanist as like his foundational influence I'm gonna find the guy's name. I keep forgetting it. Chomsky, Enlightenment, some Kraut influence. One of my people, one square-headed motherfucker. God damn it, now I feel like I'm losing you guys because I can't find the name of this dude. It's some dumb name. Anyway, I will find it at some point. In the meantime, what matters is that he fixes himself in the liberal tradition of personhood. So when he says, I want to do X, Y, and Z because of the liberal tradition, what he means is he believes in socialism as a moral proposition flowing from the inviolability of the individual. That's where the liberalism comes in. He believes that the individual is an unmoved place of meaning, an essence, that a soul exists. It's not necessarily spiritual, but there is a individual human consciousness that is unmoved and that moves upon others. That's the liberal conception of the self. It arose as the economy in Western Europe became more complicated, became more abstracted, and required a greater degree of abstracted thinking in order to process it. And that created a more abstract notion of the self than the more immediate notion of the Renaissance era, or certainly the medieval era, where everyone believes in God. So that version of the self that emerges to compensate for this new, more complicated, this new, more complex economic arrangement and social system that you're in, makes you into that liberal subject. So he carries that with him, and he said that. And so that means that he's approaching, so that's why he is a liberal when he approaches the question of should you vote for Biden. Now Marx also as a liberal subject because he was born in the early 1800s in southwestern Germany, a region that was one of the areas near the Ruhr Valley that was one of the original hotbeds of industrial capitalism. Now, industrial capitalism was still in its infancy, but he saw it, and his life took place in tandem with the arriving of industrial capitalism. Witnessing that in his life and witnessing its impression on the world around him made him think differently. And it made him take the dialectical processes that he noticed lead through economic development. Like what powered us from slave states to feudalism to capitalism, it was a dialectical conflict of forces within the society. Slave, freeman, serf, master, serf,
aristocrat,
worker,
capitalist,
owner. That is how society comes into recognition of itself as a society, is through conflict within it. He applied that, as Hegel did, to the self. Now, they say that they do it on different sides, but it comes back to the same thing. The self is a series of resolved contradictions. It is not an individual monad that moves of its own volition. It is always being made by what's around it. And that,
by the way, we know this as a fact. This is not just like I can't say words. Philosophizing. There we go. We got it. It's not just philosophizing bullshit. It is, we know this for a fact. You are not one consciousness. You are not one person. You are a unity. You contain multitudes. There are many wolves inside you. I think people have a very hard time with this, but this has been like pretty much experimentally confirmed through a variety of ways. One of them is people who have had their corpus callosum severed, which is a structure in your brain that connects different hemispheres. And they can oftentimes they'll have like one section of your brain is responsible for certain parts of your body, like, you know, explaining things and speaking. And another could be in charge of like physical movement. And they could be working cross purposes. Basically, they could disagree. And so it is the human consciousness is not as simple as we commonly talk about it. Senator Raphael Warnock asked about the performance of Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. I think come 26, 28, we'll get some new leadership. Why wait? Remove Chuck Schumer now. This is like the biggest problem that we have on the left. This is the biggest problem we have. It is basically relaxation bias or passivity, executive dysfunction. It is, wow, things look pretty good, but maybe if we wait a little bit longer, things are going to get better for us. The answer is, if it seems like a good time now, act. There is a saying. I believe it's from General Eisenhower. I learned this when I was in the military, or I should say I was forced to learn it. General Eisenhower has a saying. I believe it was Eisenhower, or maybe it was Patton. I don't remember. The important thing is the idea. It says, a good plan executed now is better than a perfect plan executed next week. That is the single most, that's the reason why I'm streaming. The reason why I have a successful stream is 6 years ago, I wasn't an affiliate. I wasn't ready. And I just said, fuck it. I'm going live. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why you're here. Is because a long, long, long time ago, I had a shitty laptop with a iPhone earbuds and an integrated webcam. The laptop was 4 or 5 years old. And I said, fuck it. I'm going live. It was Patton. Thank you. So why are we waiting? You waiting around for perfect? Perfect will never come. Good enough is what you need. And if you have time, you can go back and revise. And you can go back and sand. And you can go back and finish. But for the love of God, launch the ship. A good plan violently executed right away beats a perfect plan tomorrow. Yeah, I think that sounds more Patton-like. I may have sanded the edges of that. I'll never forget you thirsting over big booty mute Dottie with Will Neff. It's how I found it. Yeah, that was called comedy. That was a great stream. I don't have that stream, and it really pisses me off. I wish I had saved it. The self, as the West understands, is trapped in the reality that we will forever chase perfected rationality, aka closeness to God. We have to have an externalized procedure in opposition to self to exist. Oh, I mean.
And the flat earth takes.
I mean, like, look at this shit. I was teaching people about why minimum wage should go to $15 an hour. Short-haired Mike.
Means that when we examine a political question, we have to examine it in time and space. So that is why
same
Chomsky
daily sub goal. Hell yeah, brother. Although that was probably not my daily sub goal. That was probably like my sub goal period. Like if I could get to 100 subscribers, I'd be so happy. I just like the number 100. What can I say?
Looks at the question of vote for Biden two-dimensionally. Here's the Democratic Party. Here's the Republican Party. The Democratic Party is less evil. It's less bad. Its platform is not as bad. The people who make it up are better people in the sense that they have more agreed upon stated values that accord with what we think is the good. So, shit, what was I saying? So anyway, so that's the Democrats are on that axis better than Republicans, and so Chomsky says, I want what's best for everybody. The Democrats want more of what's best for people than the Republicans do, therefore I have to vote for Democrats. And the thing is, that's correct. He reasoned that out right. He's right, but only on that mere level. He has not interposed the context on top of it. And the context that Chomsky misses, because he's not applying dialectical reasoning to the question, is the role that the Democratic Party plays in making the Republican Party worse over time. This
is what I tried to explain to Sam Cedar of why I wouldn't vote for Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris represents the Joe Biden wing of the Democratic Party, which is a party that's so incompetent and so evil that it makes the Republican Party worse over time because they do not operate as a party which is trying to win.
Each other. The degree to which the presently construed Democratic Party is allowed to maintain its structure, the people in charge of it, and its material base, as in who contributes money to maintaining it, that will continue to, as it has, drive the Republicans bad, to the right, even more reactionary. So their rule is even worse. And that means that when they take power, they only intensify a process that's going to happen either way. Like, take, for example, if Biden is president during a world-defining economic collapse following, because like, okay, say we get the virus under control, when we let back up, there is no return to normal. There's a huge demand gap that will have to be filled, and filling it will be a bigger challenge than the Great Depression. If the Democrats are in charge of that process, the way the Republicans were during the early days of the Depression, they will be the party associated with austerity, because they will be doing the bidding of actual capital. And in a situation like that, austerity is demanded. So they will be that reactionary party, which means that the Republicans, they're not going to get less racist. They're going to get maybe a little less racist. They're going to get more redistributive, and maybe it'll be enough to get them into power. At which point you have
they got more racist.
A few mild social democratic trappings to a system that is mostly dedicated to like an ethno-state. You flipped it over. You could have had the other thing. So whatever that is, that dimension is absent from Chomsky's analysis of the situation, and so it's wrong. And the reason he gets it wrong is because he comes from a liberal conception of the self. He thinks that the Democratic Party and the Republican Party are distinct things that move of their own volition based on what the people within them want. That's not the case.
This is the point that, and also I would say Sam Cedar has the same exact view. This is why I have such harsh disagreements, even though I love Sam on this point. Is Sam Cedar thinks the Democratic Party operates on its own volition and it's an independent thing, and they're just better than the Republicans, and we have to do lesser evilism all the time, and we should never demand anything, and we should never hold them to account, and we should just vote for the Democrat every November, every time, and you know, you're irresponsible and unreasonable if you say the Democrats are unacceptable, right? And the reason why he does that is because he has trauma from 2000. The 2000 election, he blames the Green Party voters of Florida for George W. Bush. And the reality is, the Green Party of Florida is not responsible for George W. Bush. The Democratic Party is, because they refused to stop the steal. The 2000 election was stolen from the Democrats, and they refused to fight. They let them steal it. Because of the Democrats maintaining legitimacy of the institutions in the eyes of the American people was more important than the actual democratic will of the people. And they've continued to do that over and over and over again. Every election, they've gotten worse on that issue. The democratic will of the people has been more ignored in favor of their dogged defense of the Republican-led institutions. And they've continued that to the point where they're now passing Trump's continuing resolution in front of your eyes as Donald Trump is unconstitutionally dismantling the federal government. They're still doing it. There's nothing that will make them stop. Nothing will make the Democrats stop. They're rounding up American permanent residents for their speech and calling them terrorist supporters. There is nothing. What if they arrested? What if they started arresting American protesters tomorrow? You think it's gonna make a fucking difference? You think the Democrats are suddenly gonna go, oh yeah, now is the time to fight? There's literally nothing that is gonna make them stop.
They're brought into being in conflict with one another, always at the personal and system and intellectual level. So that is why Chomsky is wrong. And it comes from him being a liberal.
Just an hour ago, you said you're going to stop screaming. Oh, well.
I said Marx was also. Oh, here's the kicker. Marx also, growing up in the early 1800s, had a liberal conception of the self that he interposed on top of dialectical materialism. So he accepts personhood to the level that Chomsky does, of all humans are worthy of respect. That the golden rule applies to all recognizable humans, depending on how we define that. But then he puts dialectical materialism on top of it. Chomsky doesn't. And so that can run off in all kinds of wrong directions when it comes in contact with a place that has evolved beyond the conditions that produced to the original insight. All right, that made sense. I felt better about that one. I gotta say, like, this is why the key to all of, like, thought and right action and all those notions that I never really understood for Buddhism and Christianity and Islam and and from socialism is practice, the need to do them every moment. And so, like, I felt kind of crippled by how people were going to think I was crazy when I started explaining things a few of the episodes ago. Now, by repetition and keep doing it, and from hearing back from people who've heard me, I have more confidence. That fear is gone. So I'm able more to concentrate on getting across the ideas, and I'm better able to get the ideas across. I am able to concentrate more perfectly because I'm less worried.
Sam's take is do not try to change the Dem Party. Sam Cedar's take is at least there's a chance to change the Dem Party while not under fascism. Wrong. His theory is just wrong. The left in America has always done better while resisting the Republicans than they have under the Democrats. He's just wrong. We got Barack Obama because we had George W. Bush. We got Bernie Sanders because it was a reaction to who? The left grew more after 2016 because there was Donald Trump. This is just wrong. And right now you can see it happening. The center is being discredited. Now, the problem that we have is that the Republican Party has gone so far right. Why has the Republican Party been able to go so far right? Because Joe Biden and the centrist Democrats have never offered any kind of constitutional or other hardball against the Republicans. The Democrats had the opportunity to ban gerrymandering, and they did not do it. The Democrats had the opportunity to protect voting rights. The Democrats had the opportunity to restrict super PACs. The Democrats had the opportunity to expand the Supreme Court. The Democrats had the opportunity to pass bills on equality, on abortion rights, on minimum wage. They did not do it. They just don't have a program that actually people can see in their life and then support. And you can see the alternative in Mexico. In Mexico, after 6 years in power, the left-wing party has an 85% approval rating. Why does that happen? Because regular Mexicans can see, I got this. This was built. This is, I'm taken care of. I'm listened to. Here's my life. Oh, my kids are getting glasses in school for free. Oh, there's 1 million homes that are going to be built for Mexicans. That's a new program that Claudia just announced. Oh, we're going to build these high-speed railroads. Oh, we're going to build this. Oh, I have this. Oh, I can see this. Oh, I can point to that. Claudia did that. AMLO did that. They're going to do that. They're standing up against Trump. They're doing this. They're doing that. They can point to it. They can see it. And they're also engaged. She listens to them. She respects them. Regular people feel like they're being listened to. So she's got unbelievable popularity, even with people to her right, because they respect she is accomplishing things. They can see it in their own eyes because guess what, chat? Very few people are actually ideological, right? Very few people are ideological. I am. And if you are, which I doubt, but the odds are higher because you're here. If you are actually ideological like me, you're a freak. I don't see how we get to a big leftist party that can win and pull back anything through this fascism in any near term because you have never studied history, is my blunt and honest opinion of you. Do you think that people saw FDR coming in 1926? Do you think they saw FDR coming in 1928? You don't know what you're talking about. And that's just simply the truth. Do you think they saw the Russian Revolution in 1914? You just don't know what you're talking about. The reality is that you think you could see into the future 5 years and say what the outcomes are going to be, but that's never how it's worked. Do you think they saw the Republican Party in 1850? Like, this is the reality, is you just don't know your history at a basic elementary level. So you have this kind of blinkered political worldview because why? Somebody else told you it can't happen? Are there angels with swords of fire at the necks of every leftist that are going to keep them from ever taking power? Like, what? You believe in magical thinking to constrain yourself into liberalism. And it's embarrassing. Grow up, stand up for what you believe in instead of what somebody else told you was possible because they're bullshitting you to manipulate you. Now, I have to come to either one of two conclusions. One, you're trying to manipulate us with your bullshit, right? You don't support the program that I support, and you're just lying in order to convince people who do agree with me that they can't get it done, in which case, fuck you. Or two, you're a rube who got tricked. and you're like a virulent, you're like a vector of stupidity running around spreading it. So are you a typhoid Mary of dumbass political takes, or are you a bad faith liar? Which one? I read history, and you know what I learn from history? Optimism. Because there are so many times in history when people didn't see a way out, and not only 10 years later did they win, they had achieved things that people 10 years ago would thought would take 150 years to achieve. And this is in all aspects of humanity. I'm talking about women's rights. I'm talking about technology. The difference in plane technology between 1914 and 1950 is unbelievable. The difference in computer technology for when I was a child to now is unbelievable. The change that has happened in gay rights in my lifetime is unbelievable. Things change, and they change rapidly. What's happened in China, 800 million people have been brought out of poverty in my lifetime. You just don't know what can happen. You just are constraining yourself because somebody told you to, and you don't have a reason, and it's embarrassing.
Literally everyone but them, but all of the Democrats protesting during the State of the Union by wearing a pink situation and holding up their little signs is the exact same energy, but 100 times worse, as all of those celebrities singing Imagine during COVID, living in their mansions and shit. That is what that's given. It's the same exact energy as reading in your history book that, oh, the politicians who were against Hitler, well, they decided to try to stop him by showing up to his speech and all wearing purple hats. Do you hear how stupid that sounds? Protest is not for you. Protest is for the people. We have to engage in acts of protest and speech and symbolism and rebellion in order to have our voices heard. If we are protesting what the government is doing, you are the government. You are the government, the ones we voted in to do what we need and to protect our democracy and values and rights. You are the person we're talking to. You protesting in there is just talking at each other. You're talking at the problem and then still sitting for it and acknowledging that it has power and just shrugging and wearing a pink fucking jacket. That shit pisses me off beyond reason. And them saying, well, we don't have any power to do, we can't, well, what are we supposed to? Trump and Elon, 90% of the things that they have done, they also do not legally have the power to do, but they've been doing it anyway. Following the rule book, holding tight to those rules and whatever, isn't this moral high ground that you're taking. You're not better for it. You're actually worse. Because the rule book in and of itself, our Constitution and our rule of law and our system of governments, in and of itself hinges upon the fact that none of y'all would have let this shit happen. If this shit is happening, of course our principles of democracy are not going to work properly because no one on their side is going to follow the rules. So you just holding on to the rule book and saying, well, we're getting dunked on the house, but I'm going to wear a pink shirt. That's fucking useless. Actively disrupting a fascist regime requires that you play outside of the rules. Y'all need to start doing that because all of you just honoring this system of governance that is not happening anymore, that doesn't exist anymore because you're thinking that, oh, well, democracy will just like get itself out of it. That's not what's going to happen. Rules of law and the Constitution do not account for you allowing a hostile takeover. Bar for bar, honest to God, if you look it up from the 1930s, how Hitler took over the government, sitting in that room and pretending that this all still works is absolutely dignifying something that has lost all legitimacy. Sitting there and following the fucking rules and voting for shit that you're gonna fucking lose on, even though it's taking away the rights and dignities and money and everything, economic policy, everything. Our country is going to shut the fuck down. In 1 year, I don't think people realize how bad it's going to get. Okay? Trump threatening to fire all of the lawyers and judges who disagree with him, saying they're going to be investigated. The American Bar Association having to release a statement saying, fuck, like we are holding the line. We are bipartisan, but what the fuck? Like, this is really bad. You cannot, this is what we do. Trump saying, oh, the judicial branch is not allowed, lawyers and judges are not allowed to tell the executive branch what the laws mean, when that's literally to a T what our jobs are. That's the job description of what the judicial branch is. Acknowledging that the institution itself is broken requires acting outside of it now.
And this is actually very basic political science. These institutions do not exist as self-justifying institutions. Institutions only exist as objects of social consensus. Laws only exist as objects of social consensus. Laws only, I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. When you're driving on the highway, how fast do you go? Do you go the speed limit or do you go 10 miles over? The law says you're supposed to go the speed limit, but everybody goes 10 miles over. Why? Because it has become the social consensus that going 10 miles over the speed limit is okay. And so we all do it. So we all flout the law because that's what we all socially are conditioned to do. So there's a different law, which is you're actually an asshole if you drive the speed limit. People will actually get mad at you if you drive the speed limit. And so, but if you got pulled over and you were going 10 over, the cop could write you a ticket. And would you think that was a fair ticket, or would you be pissed off? You'd be like, come on, man, I'm going 10 over. This is what everybody does. This is bullshit. This is arbitrary. This is unfair. But actually, it wouldn't be. But because social consensus is so ingrained that you can go 10 miles over, you get to go 10 miles over. And this is true of every law. You actually don't follow laws. You operate intuitively. This is actually reality. You don't know what the fucking laws are. Lawyers don't know what the fucking laws are. You operate according to the norms and expectations of behavior that you have been inculcated with, and you assume the law lines up with it. That is how people actually behave. Well, guess what? That's not the case. The Republicans are saying we're going to change the norms and we're going to use the law to do so. And we're going to use force with the law as justification. Do you understand that? The Republicans are saying we control the state. And so we're going to change the norms and we're going to use force justifying itself with the law. And so they are now going to use the institutions to enforce a change in our society. So either you accept that these institutions have been irrevocably broken and do not represent the democratic will of the people, or you accept the use of force without protest. That is how law operates in society. I'll give you an example from my lifetime. Laws against littering and laws against indoor smoking. When I was young, people would smoke indoors. They would smoke in the library. They would smoke at the bar. They would smoke at your restaurant. They would smoke in the airplane. People were smoking constantly. It was normal. It was expected. There were ashtrays in the backs of plane seats. There were ashtrays. Every car had a fucking lighter involved. And guess what? We as a society looked at the evidence that secondhand smoke was damaging people's health, and we passed a law, and that gave us the justification to start using force against people who were smoking next to us indoors. And we made it a small, relatively small fine, right? It's not the end of the world. We didn't put a gun to your head, but it was basically, we have the ability to take money out of your bank account if you smoke indoors. And that gave other people the right to start shaming you. Hey, you're not allowed to smoke in here. That's against the law. That's against the rules. No smoking. Get out. And what had been the expected norm changed because of the use of law. And now, if I were to go into a fucking hospital and start smoking, every single person, smoker or no, would tell me I'm a fucking lunatic and throw me out. But when I was growing up, their doctor used to come into your fucking room with a lit cigarette. Like, so these are the changes that I have literally seen. Really? Like, let me see what it's like. Firing line from the 60s. Let me see if I can find like
Shakespeare.
People like smoking. Do you think do people smoke at the fire? Did anybody like? I'm sure there's episodes where people were smoking in the firing line. Maybe not, but maybe he had. Maybe he was a non-smoker. I don't know. But people used to like literally smoke on television. Johnny Carson smoking. Let me see if I can find that. Johnny Carson smoking on air.
George Burns is a phenomenon. At the age of 93.
There you go. See, this is 1989. This guy's got a lit fucking cigar and he's going to town. Again, I remember those days. I remember it. When men were men. No, I'm kidding. Like, this is how shit changes. I bring this up just because I'm trying to explain it something so that even liberals can't disagree with me. You know what I mean? Like, either you stand up and you start fighting back with everything you've got, or you accept the new world order of God knows how bad it's gonna get.
But no one is willing to do that. And it's honestly embarrassing and disgusting. Wearing a different color shirt and holding up a little sign, enough.
You know, if you were to follow a busy doctor as he makes his daily round of calls, you'd find yourself having a mighty busy time keeping up with him. Time out for many men of medicine usually means just long enough to enjoy a cigarette. And because they know what a pleasure it is to smoke a mild, good-tasting cigarette, they're particular about the brand they choose. In a repeated national survey, doctors in all branches of medicine, doctors in all parts of the country were asked, "What cigarette do you smoke, doctor?" Once again, the brand named most was Camel. Yes, according to this...
Yeah, you can see he's literally using the car lighter. I mean, honestly, when I got my first car, it had a car lighter in it. Like, this is something that even you younger people have noticed. Car lighters have only, like, kind of recently stopped being in cars.
Yes, according to this repeated nationwide survey, more doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarette. Why not change to Camels for the next 30 days and see what a difference it makes in your smoking enjoyment? See how Camels agree with your throat. See how mild and good tasting a cigarette can be.
Ashing inside your car is so gross, dude. All right, what else were we talking about? Yeah, okay, I got off on a rant, chat, and I haven't been... See, like, this is one of the things that's so funny about my stream. People will come into my stream and be like, Mike just reacts to stuff. I just did, what, 2 hours of... And I had, like, maybe 10 minutes of video, 15 minutes of video there. How much was that even me talking about reacting to videos or me just pulling up videos to make a point? It's crazy how people like, I think I probably, I mean, it's just fucking insane. I don't know what else to even say. Citizenship is only for those who lick the boot now. U.S. Secretary of State Rubio, expect more student visas to be revoked in the coming days. This is literally against the spirit of the First Amendment, which is basically, this is what conservatives do. You know, they want to make it, oh yeah, freedom of speech, but if you disagree with us, then you're undesirable. So like, if I as an American said, Israel is an apartheid state, they can't do anything to me because of the First Amendment. But if you as a permanent resident agree with me, now you can be deported? Does that sound like a world of free speech to you? I guess that creates a whole bunch of statements that people are going to be deported for. What about abortion should be a right? Is that something that could be deported for? What about gay marriage is legitimate? What about trans rights are human rights? What about trans women are women? What about we should raise the minimum wage? What about you should join a union? I mean, are those illegal? Are those undesirable? Are those something that violates the First? Because if the First Amendment doesn't apply, anybody who's not a citizen can't say anything that might piss off a Republican? That's the world you want to live in, you fucking dumb piece of shit, Asmongold? And before you try to justify, oh, they were supporting terrorists. Terrorism is a designation that has been given to some of the history's greatest liberators. Like, for example, Nelson Mandela. It is a meaningless designation. It is a political designation. So what you're basically saying is, I want the United States government to be able to censor speech. I'm not saying if somebody sends money or builds a bomb, that's material support of terrorism. But if somebody says, I think that the Palestinian resistance is legitimate under international law, which it is, by the way, and which has never been denied, that doesn't make you a terrorist. Speech does not make you a terrorist. Why are you just accepting they won't strip birthright citizenship from critics of Israel? I don't assume that. I don't assume that. This is the first step on that ladder. They're testing to see what they can get away with. And Asmongold is saying, I want people to be censored who say things I disagree with. I mean, he is somebody who came out and said he doesn't care if somebody is genocided, and he thinks that words are terrorism. That's an interesting belief to have when you just said that, dumbass. And I can say, chat, you know, listen, I am a leftist, so I already understand the game. You know, I understand the game. People like Asmongold don't believe in the First Amendment. Okay, they don't believe in freedom of speech. People like Asmongold use freedom of speech so they can get away with shit when they're not in power. And the moment they're in power, Now suddenly freedom of speech doesn't mean what it said when they were out of power. What a disgusting rat.
Piece of paper that we will impound and rip up the moment it's passed. If that's the case, how is voting for cloture not essentially an imprimatur on the very same assault on the constitutional order?
They're already, even without this CR, they're already doing it.
Right.
Okay? They did it to the Department of Education. But I can tell you, I've been through shutdowns before. It's not that this CR is good. It's not that voting for it is good. It's horrible. But the alternative is worse.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the logic of the Democratic Party that has gotten us to this point, which is why I told you loud and proud I will not vote for Kamala Harris, because Kamala Harris is on the screen with us right now, which is utter capitulation to the right wing. Kamala Harris was a holding action until the next virulent stage of fascism was able to seize power. We need an antidote. We need a antibiotic. We need a radiation. We need chemotherapy to treat fascism. No more of this nonsense.
We have to look just a month ahead and see how bad a shutdown would be for all the things we believe in, and how I'd say Trump and Doge and Musk and Vogt, they're like drooling with happiness and desire to get a government shutdown. They've said they want it. Why? Not for doing anything good, I'll tell you that. These guys are authoritarians.
Let me just stay with this in 1 second. I think the theory of the case for people that don't want Democrats to vote for cloture is that Americans don't quite understand what's being done to their government. It's being done in this sort of haphazard fashion. The stories are sort of getting out. You know, there's this Forest Service worker who got laid off for no reason, and there's this veteran who's got a traumatic brain injury, who's got a clinical trial. But the shutdown would be a way of actually calling the question. And here's what I would just offer. It seems to me that the demand that makes the most sense here, and I'm not a U.S. senator, is for the Republicans to vote on a rescission package that enunciates the cuts Doge has done, as opposed to allowing an unelected co-president unilaterally eviscerate the American constitutional power of the purse.
Well, the bottom line is the Republican Senate is in total obeisance to Trump. They're not going to oppose him in any way. But if they allow Trump to make the kind of drastic cuts that I greatly fear in a government shutdown, they'll be culpable as well. And make no mistake about it. Make no mistake about it. Ask yourself again the question, why does Musk and Trump and Vogt want this? Vogt already has plans on how to slash the government, far worse than slashed in the CR. Much worse. Every program, every part of government would be at their disposal, their wicked disposal. So that's the problem here. It's not that the CR is good, it's horrible. Well, all things being equal, we should have opposed it. But the alternative being a shutdown makes things worse, and I believe this much worse. And
the Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the White House. And Chuck Schumer believes that he will be blamed. Did you see Sex Pestity workshopping to get unbanned from Twitch? He will never be unbanned from Twitch. I want to just communicate to any Destiny watcher, I know for a fact he will never be unbanned. Ever. So just give up, honestly. For his own mental health, he should just give up.
And I believe this. I wouldn't have done this. I knew I'd get criticized, but I felt obligated for the country, for my Democratic caucus, to the people, to explain how bad a shutdown would be. And if we went into a shutdown and everything bad.
There's a civil war going on. Nancy Pelosi issues a statement calling on Democratic senators to reject the House funding bill, i.e. to defy Chuck Schumer. Democratic senators should listen to the women, she says, referring to Murray DeLauro, who won a 1 month stopgap bill instead. Donald Trump and Elon Musk had offered the Congress a false choice between a government shutdown or a blank check that makes a devastating assault on the well-being of working families across America. Let's be clear. Neither is a good option for the American people, but this false choice that some are buying instead of fighting is unacceptable. I salute leader Hakeem Jeffries for his courageous rejection of this false choice, and I'm proud of my colleagues in the House Democratic Caucus for their overwhelming vote against this bill. Democratic senators should listen to the women. Appropriation leaders Rosa DeLauro and Patty Murray have eloquently presented the case that we must have a better choice. A 4-week funding extension to keep the government open and negotiate a bipartisan agreement. America has experienced a Trump shutdown before, but this damaging legislation only makes matters worse. Democrats must not buy into this false choice. We must fight back for a better way. Listen to the women for the people. God, she's such a fucking liberal. But even she thinks Chuck Schumer is a fucking feckless loser.
That happened. I had to give people this warning.
Can I'm going to just keep you for 2 more questions, if that's okay. One is a sort of question about strategy and dealing what I think you and I and many people watching this agree is essentially an assault on the constitutional order, and that it's
Absolutely.
This. The only thing they understand is meeting conflict with conflict. So if you look at Doug Ford in Ontario, who banged the table and said, "You're going to tariff us, I'm going to tariff you, we're going to put a surcharge on electricity," that the only thing that gets their attention, the only thing that gets them to back down is meeting conflict with conflict. If you meet conflict with essentially managed retreat or strategic non-engagement, then they roll
Chris,
all over you.
We are going to conflict with them on everything. On the tax cuts for the billionaires. They've become a plutocracy, an oligarchy. On Medicaid. We have plans to conflict them with all of that. If the shutdown occurred, we wouldn't be able to do that because they would fill up both the Senate and the discussion on whether we should cut this and not cut that, of things that they want to cut. So to have the conflict on the best ground we have, summed up in a sentence, that they're making the middle class pay for tax cuts for billionaires, it's much, much better not to be in the middle of a shutdown, which stood.
So basically what it seems to be is that Chuck Schumer thinks that Democrats would receive more heat than Republicans if there was a government shutdown. Which, by the way, why would they? It doesn't even make sense. Donald Trump is president. Republicans are in charge of shit. The Democrats want to keep spending money. Why the fuck would they get more heat? It doesn't make any sense.
To divert people from the #1 issue we have against these bastards, these people, which is not only all these cuts, but they're ruining democracy. And one other thing on a shutdown. On a shutdown, the courts could close or at least be totally disabled. And the courts are one of the best ways we've had to go after these guys.
Final question about just an issue of intercameral strategy. I mean, the Democrats voted en masse against this in the House. They lost only 1 vote, Jared Golden in Maine. I've seen a lot of House members, and across an ideological range, interestingly enough, urging the Senate to filibuster this, saying, look, this is existential about whether we control the power of the purse or not. We cannot essentially sign off on this Doge unilateral arrogation of this power.
Yeah, look, I supported what the House did to vote against this bill universally, but that didn't cause a shutdown. It's different in the Senate. And I knew people were going to disagree with me, but I felt so strongly that the shutdown would be the greatest disaster we face with these arrogant autocrats that we had to avoid the shutdown and fight on many of the other things, every other issue that we have.
All right, Senator Chuck Schumer, who's the leader of the Democrats in the Senate, announcing he will be a yes for cloture tomorrow. I imagine you will have the 6 or so other votes you need to get that over the hump.
Austin Cho says, I'm not a liberal anymore.
Right now, Republicans are waging a campaign of persecution.
By the way, Austin Cho came in here yesterday and said he wasn't a liberal. Austin Cho came in here yesterday and said he wasn't a liberal. Longtime friend of the show, Austin Cho. He said, I'm a leftist now. I have converted. The Democratic Party fucking sucks. Can someone gift him a sub? Like, what the fuck? I'm okay. Yes, you were right. You were correct. You were right. Wow, thank you. I don't get called intelligent that often. Last time I did flight sim with a leftist, they kept trying to crash it. Completely inept. They're weak and inept. Yeah, he was talking about the Democrats there, not leftists crashing. I will say this, though. If I got the opportunity to do a flight sim with Austin Cho, I would call up my dad, who is one of the most qualified pilots in the world. And I might even invite him, honestly. It might be fun. But my dad is kind of mischievous, and who knows what kind of bullshit he would say. My dad is like, might say also, he might get us canceled, honestly. My dad is like a really, really, really kind guy. But deep inside, there is a rod of iron. He's nicer than me, honestly, at this point in his life. It wasn't true like 40 years ago, but now in this part of his life, he is. But I mean, my dad is literally worldly. He may be like one of the most well-traveled people on the entire planet, which is like kind of cringe to say, but it happens to be true. But he has a lot of what I would call idiosyncratic opinions. So, you know, but overall, he gets to the right place. Mike versus Father DCS stream, he would kick my ass. But that actually might be fun. I wonder if he would want to do it. The thing is about my dad, I don't know, like, he started studying German because of VO. Like, how nice is that? And he's like more advanced than me at this point. What's up? Should I primary Schumer? Here's my feeling about that. A YouTuber has admitted to calling CPS on Ethan.
I knew this content nuke was going to draw a lot of negative attention, seeing how extreme Hassan and his fan base are, and his orbiters. But the lengths to which they've gone...
Are you talking about Bada Panada? He was joking. Bada Panada never actually called CPS. He was just joking to get under, to see how dumb and dopey people are. Like, this is how stupid Ethan Klein is. Like, Ethan Klein is legitimately, hey, Alyssa, by the way, how are you doing? By the way, Alyssa, I tried to read your article, but it's paywalled. Like, what the fuck? How many subscriptions do I need to have? How many fucking subscriptions do I need to have at this point? I like Rolling Stone, by the way. I should probably subscribe. Want me to get you a PDF? Yes. I don't know why they did that, because they're stupid. I could literally get you like 2,000 page views like this, which is not that many, but it's certainly a lot for a fucking written article. They're so silly. Motherfucker, you could use it as a tax write-off. Yes, I can. And I do. But you understand that when you spend money and you get a tax write-off, it's not like the money was free. You just still spent the money. You just have to pay, you know, whatever your taxes were on that marginal dollar are so it's like what, 35% or whatever. So you're saving you're spending $1 to save 35 cents. Does that make sense? You're not even really, you're still paying the 65 cents of untaxed money. You got the money, Mike. Until I have enough money where I can live like a capitalist every single day, you don't have enough. Until I have enough money that I can fund a battalion of infantry soldiers, full kit, I don't have enough money. Your face is too big for that? Yeah, true. Anonymous gifter, thank you for the 25 gifties. That's why Kamala's 25K tax credit for the first-time home buyers was such a dumb policy. Motherfucker, we don't have enough money to begin with to buy a house. Okay, a tax credit is a little bit different than a tax deduction. A tax deduction reduces your taxable income, which is before before you calculate your taxes. A tax credit pays your taxes. And there are two types of tax credits. So that subtracts from the taxes owed, right? And there's two types of tax credits. There are non-refundable tax credits and there are refundable tax credits. Non-refundable tax credits means that let's say that I owe $10,000 in taxes, but I have $15,000 in tax credits. Well, then a non-refundable tax credit will take me to $0 and I lose out on the $5,000. A refundable tax credit, if let's say that I have $10,000 in taxes owed and $15,000 in refundable tax credits, then I will get $5,000 back. They'll literally send me a check. So those are the differences between deductions, non-refundable tax credits, and refundable tax credits. Is it using tax policy to distribute goodies regressive? No. Regressive refers to the fact that the poor pay a higher percentage of their income than the rich. That's what regressive means when you're talking about tax codes. So, for example, the Social Security tax is regressive in that higher income earners pay less Social Security taxes than lower income earners as a percentage of their income. Mike, did you see that weirdo A3 fan stalker that came up to Dan Clancy? Ethan literally promoted it on his Instagram, trying to incite more stalking behavior. I honestly think, like, that in and of itself, I think Dan should sue Ethan. Like, I know that Ethan Klein will try to use it as, like, I would at least, like, try to get a restraining order. Maybe not even sue, but, like, at this point, Ethan Klein, like, he posted that the same day a streamer was killed. Ethan Klein posted a video of one of his fans stalking Dan Clancy in person the day a streamer was killed. And I could say this, like, you know, if an Ethan, like, you know, hey, if somebody walks up to a streamer and that streamer handles business and defends themselves, there isn't a jury in the world that would convict them.
What are two clips that give off the same energy? He's actually not implementing tax hikes. Tariffs are a tax hike on foreign countries that, again, have been ripping us off. Tariffs are a tax cut for the American people, and the president is a staunch advocate of tax cuts. As you know, he campaigned on no taxes on tips, no taxes on overtime, no taxes on Social Security benefits. He is committed to all three of those things, and he expects Congress to pass them later this year.
I'm sorry, have you ever paid a tariff? Because I have.
They
don't get charged on foreign companies. They get charged on the importers.
And ultimately, when we have fair and balanced trade, which the American people have not seen in decades, as I said at the beginning, revenues will stay here, wages will go up, and our country will be made wealthy again. And I think it's insulting that you are trying to test my knowledge of economics and the decisions that this president has made. I'm now regret giving a question to the Associated Press.
So that's a write-off.
That's a write-off? Do you even know what a write-off is?
Yeah. It's when you buy something for your business and the government pays you back for it.
Oh, who pays for it?
Nobody. You write it off.
Who writes it off?
I don't know. The write-off people. What? Why are we having this conversation?
That's not a write-off. That's not a write-off. This? Not a write-off.
Well, the betting's non-refundable.
David, a write-off is a business expense used to reduce your taxable income.
Okay, well then why isn't it called a tax write-off?
It is! It is! You can't just buy things for yourself and write them off.
Well, then I'll return some things.
Amazing. Isn't no tax on Social Security benefits good, though? I'm in favor of Social Security Roth IRA instead of Roth IRA Social Security. The answer to that is it's meaningless. I mean, honestly, if you want people to live better lives, you have to provide them necessary services. I mean, I wouldn't be against it. It's lowering taxes on, but, you know, as long as you're taxing wealthy people, who gives a shit? You got to buy a 3-ton truck so you can write it off. That's a little bit different, though, because you might actually be able to write, like, that might actually be worth it because, like, you need a car, right? So if you could use a car, if you could buy a car and then write that off, you're going to significantly reduce your taxable income. All right. Let me see if I could. I wanted to show you guys how dumb Ethan Klein is. Ethan Klein is oh, by the way, we have a hype train chat. Holy shit. Thank you, Soviet Cranberry, for the bits, and Ham and Fist for the 20 sub gifted subs. You guys are king. Ethan Klein is like legitimately stupid. Like, and I think even his fans know he's stupid. Like, I don't think anybody really disagrees with the idea that Ethan Klein is stupid, even Ethan Klein. But I want to just show you what I'm talking about with Ethan Klein. Like, Ethan Klein, and I mean this with from the bottom of my heart. You are a dumb motherfucker.
And he does pretty literal titles.
What about Asman? Because he's juicing hard on Trump.
But he's like pro-Trump, isn't he?
Oh my God, is he?
I wouldn't say
I have to imagine, right?
I don't think he's like pro-Trump explicitly, overtly. I know people try to say that. I think he definitely leans more conservative, but I don't think he's as conservative as people try to paint him out to be.
Well, let's see.
Asman is Trump killed it.
He's Trump coded. That's
no, Trump killed it.
What?
Trump killed.
That sounds pretty pro-Trump.
He said Trump what?
Killed it.
Oh, killed it.
In other words, we'll execute the baby.
I think I would say he's Trump coded.
Trump's good at this. ...
I've watched his content. It's not.
That was said sarcastically.
It's not super pro-Trump. He's Trump coded though. Did he vote for Trump? Probably yes.
Probably.
Yeah, probably yes. But it's not a total glaze fest or anything like that.
And he does pretty.
Let's go over. Let's see the world-shattering research of Asmongold. Trump pushes NATO to the edge. Trump is not backing down. Peaceful protests at Tesla is crazy. Terrorist simps are out of control, which is him supporting this guy. By the way, he didn't say eradicate Western civilization. Somebody else posted on Instagram that. He didn't even say that. Also, that doesn't mean anything. Controversial female-only gym. Trump just saved Elon Musk's career. Elon Musk is at a breaking point. Anti-Elon crowd is insane. JD Vance is cooking. Blue terror is crazy. The left is getting violent. Canada's new PM is somehow even worse. So he's like, you know, a liberal PM, right? The left wants Elon Musk dead. Democrats are 100% cooked. Trump just can't stop. Pierce Morgan on Democrats, one of the most pathetic. Democrats embarrassing themselves during Trump's speech. Trump killed it. Trump announces massive investments. Anti-Elon rally is crazy. Trump is consistent as fuck. A bunch of him like attacking Hassan. There's been like 4 posts that I didn't even mention of him attacking Hassan, which is why Ethan Klein. So in other words, just going off the titles, scrolling for 5 seconds, it's very clear that Asmongold is pro-Trump, right? And pro-Republican and anti-Democrat, right? It's not very confusing. It's not coded at all. And here's Ethan Klein pretending that he's not pro-Trump. Why? Because he wants an ally to attack Hassan. That's it. Because Ethan Klein doesn't care about anything. And I don't think his viewers care about anything either. Everybody who cares about politics from a progressive direction are leaving.
Yeah, and I would even say that I would respect a person like that. What was his name? The other Hassan guy that was the leader of Hamas. I thought he was a very respectable and very well-spoken man. I disagreed with what he was saying. He was not. I didn't like what
I think he means Nasrallah, which is a leader of Hezbollah, which is not the same thing as Hamas. And his name wasn't Hassan, the other Hassan.
He was saying he was the leader of a terrorist organization, but I can respect intelligence, and I can respect a person who is smart. And
I mean, the leader of Hamas was not Hassan. The leader of Hezbollah is Hassan Nasrallah. The leader of Hamas, who was killed in combat, is a totally different guy. So he confused me by saying leader of Hamas.
And they know what they're talking about. I think these are, it was Hezbollah. Excuse me. Yeah, sorry.
That's literally the same thing.
It's a bad opinion.
That's what Hassan said, which people like Asmon then called him a terrorist supporter for saying. Hassan was saying Hassan Nasrallah is a right-winger Islamist, and I don't agree with him, but he's intelligent and well-spoken, and he can talk about these issues. He's not just some sort of rabid dog. And by the way, neither was Osama bin Laden. That's why he was able to attack us so successfully. It's because he wasn't an unhinged, insane psycho. It's because he was a cold-blooded political operator who believes in a type of politics that I completely and wholeheartedly disagree with. But it doesn't mean that he's stupid. It doesn't mean that he's insane. It's that he has completely different worldview and values. Like people like Asmongold who grew up playing some of the dumbest, most poorly written video games in history, they think that because that the world is black and white.
Well, that's the way I feel. Like, respecting somebody doesn't mean that you agree with them. If you can't respect your enemies in a lot of cases, it means that, and oftentimes you can't really understand them. And if you can't understand them, how can you beat them?
That is literally left wing. That's left wing internationalism. That's not what America does. America doesn't try to understand the opposition. They engage in game theory where they just operate and they don't listen to what the opposition says. And they don't try to understand the opposition. This has been a long time problem in American foreign policy from the conservative movement. It's the left who's saying we should understand the opposition. It's the left that's saying we should look at their priorities and try to come to a compromise. That's literally not the views that you say you espouse. This is what's so hard with people like Asmongold, right? People like Asmongold just say shit in the moment. That sounds good in the moment, but it has no level of consistency. It's not connected to any reasonable political project. It's just pablum.
That's the way I see it. So I think it's very important to acknowledge and respect the advantages and the strengths that people that oppose you have in order for you to be able to accurately overcome them. You can do both of those. It's okay.
Why should I want to? Here's a question I have for you, Asmongold. Why should I want to overcome the Palestinian people wanting the right to their own state? Why should I want to overcome that? They were thrown out of their homes at 1948 and put into refugee camps. Why should I want to overcome their right to have a state of their own and a government of their own and self-determination? Why should I want to overcome that? You're saying we've spent, hey, Asmongold, we have sent Israel $330 billion. $330 billion. Why should we give Israel $330 billion to help them stop the Palestinians from having their own home? Why should you and I pay taxes to fund the genocide of kids? Why is it our business to do that? Why aren't we spending that money here at home to fix our roads, fix our streets, build housing for the homeless and veterans, health care for the sick, dental care for 40-year-old gamers who are too lazy to go to the dentist. Why aren't we doing that? Why aren't we providing, you know, state-mandated girlfriends for your audience? With $330 billion, we could probably afford it. That's why Asmongold will never, ever, 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 ever debate. And that's why he's running away from Hassan.
It's one of the most insane things. I'm glad that these guys are pushing back on it. It's just so freakish to behave like this. This guy doesn't even know my name. Like, that's psychotic. You don't know my name, and your obsession is to this degree. Cry more, please. Nice, man. Thanks. Yeah, I do think it's really that hatred, bigotry is growing in this country, and there are otherwise reasonable people who on this issue lose their minds, okay? Otherwise reasonable people who just have lost the plot entirely. Here's an example of this, okay? Apparently, this guy is one of Ethan Klein's fans, and he called into Dean's live stream. As you guys might know, Dean is a TikTok, he's liberal Spider-Man. He's a TikTok debate guy.
Okay, I like legitimately, I guess I need to start doing debates. I guess I have to start doing debates now. Because, like, I mean, you're promoting this guy who's basically a fucking worthless sack of shit. Like, legitimately, this is worthless.
I recently talked to him on his own live stream. Ever since I talked to him on his own live stream,
does anybody know about TikTok? I want to do, I want to start making TikToks, but I need help. Like, I like last night, I was like about to, like, I was looking into recording it. I installed TikTok on my phone because I'm just like, okay, if people are watching this fucking child because he has TikTok presence, I have to do TikTok. Like, legitimately, this is a child.
Ethan Klein fans have been like swarming nonstop, telling him to stay away from me. I'm scary. I'm a scary anti-Semite. Let's listen to a conversation that took place.
I voted for Trump because I really don't like the way that the left party is going socially. I feel like it's
like, honestly, I think putting this kid as the front of like Democrats it's actually making me Republican. This is a kid that we would have bullied off the golf team. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, there's something deep within my soul that's stirring. A vitriolic hatred and bullying impulse that I thought I had killed a long time ago is drawing up in my heart. There's like, I know that a lot of you guys in high school probably weren't this type of person, but I just could, like, I'm imagining a chocolate milk spontaneously appearing in my hand, and without even thinking, I'm going into a throwing motion. There's no the conscious thought that's happening. I see this kid and I just start thinking, I can't help it. If you put this man as the front of your movement, we're going to have Donald Trump turned into like Warhammer 40K style God Emperor. They're going to have him in a like life-sustaining tomb. Like, you know, we're going to have Trump for president for the next 100 years if this is the face of the left.
Extremely toxic. Well, you can take like one of the biggest examples, I believe the biggest streamer on the left, Hassan Parker. He's just extremely
Parker.
What's the word? Radical, and gets people just.
What the fuck is he doing? Why does he have a gigantic black towel that he's like spearing on his face? What's happening? Is this his blankie? Like, what's happening?
Really
is he vaping?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, how about we look on the right? Nick Fuentes.
Are you not allowed to vape? Like, what is happening? Okay, will he at least defend Hassan? Like, is that why Hassan is watching this? Because somebody defended him?
Which one do you think is more harmful?
Honestly, between them, Hassan Parker. He literally plays
Hassan Parker.
Hassan Parker is worse than Nick Fuentes. I gotta say, like, I think Ethan Klein, like, I know people have said this before, but he really doesn't care about anti-Semitism at all. Have you guys ever watched anything that Nick has put out? I think a lot of people here just don't even watch Nick Fuentes. I unfortunately do from time to time watch a clip or two of Nick Fuentes just so I could get an idea where the radical right is. And I legitimately don't think people really get that he's Hitlerian. Like, he is. Now, his type of politics will never work because America is not going to become a Catholic. You know, like, his type of politics might have worked in Spain or something, but in the United States of America, it's not viable. Now, I know a lot of what Nick is saying because I am a Catholic and I was confirmed Catholic and I went to Catholic Sunday schools and then I studied theology in college, and I have read a lot of I've read encyclicals, I've read doctrines, like I've read like theological debates on Christianity. Like I'm somebody who is, I probably, you know, and I don't say this because I'm trying to brag or anything, but on the online left, outside of like Matt Chrisman, I think I know more about Christianity than pretty much anybody else who has a Twitch stream. Okay. And I say that because Nick Fuentes is not just a Nazi in kind of like a throwaway, edgy way. Like he doesn't just say the N-word or Holocaust jokes to be edgy. He is a legitimate ideological fascist who's attempting to produce a political movement that destroys the Jews. Okay? This is not somebody, he's not just anti-Semitic and like he says jokes or slurs or anything, or that he denies the Holocaust because his brain is rotted. He is a man ideologically dedicated to the physical destruction of the Jewish people in the United States of America. And if he had his way, the world. Okay? And he's popular. It's not a tiny community. He has a decent size of right-wing followers. I simply do not believe that Ethan Klein has watched even a single Nick Fuentes video talking about Jewish people. I don't think he knows anything, like literally anything. And the fact that Ethan Klein associates with Destiny, and Destiny is probably the person most responsible for the success of Nick Fuentes. There's rumors that there was a sexual relationship. As far as I know, they've never directly denied it. Maybe I'm wrong. I remember when the video came out of Destiny that leaked showing Destiny, sucking someone's dick, that a lot of people said it was Nick Fuentes, or they presumed it was Nick Fuentes because the timing lined up. And I remember Nick Fuentes making a post, but he didn't explicitly in that post, as far as I'm aware, and I'm happy to be corrected here. I'm going off of memory. He didn't explicitly say he and Destiny had never engaged in any sexual contact. And like, one of the things that I want you to understand is I would show you a Nick Fuentes video, but I think that just showing it might get me banned because it's so virulently anti-Semitic. And if I was an Israeli Zionist like Ethan Klein, I would be far more worried about Nick Fuentes than I am about me, because there is a rebellion brewing among MAGA on the Jewish question. The Christian nationalists are very, very, very unhappy with the censorship and with the power of the Israeli lobby. And there is a grassroots anti-Semitism that is building, like true anti-Semitism. Not just like opposing Israel's genocide in Gaza, but actual physical removal of Jewish people from America level anti-Semitism on the right. No such thing exists on the left. No such thing like that exists on the left. I mean, the last Joe Rogan guest was an outright Holocaust denier. These people like Ethan Klein are insane. And not only are they insane, they are stupid. And I would say that if I thought of the most dangerous like political creator right now, as much as it's cringe to say, it's Nick. Dude, this Nick guy doesn't exist other than for people like you promoting them. Look them up on social, but he absolutely does. You're just not aware of alternative media sites. You just don't know what you're talking about. And he's getting massively promoted on Twitter. I mean, I'll get Nick Fuentes videos. If I just like scroll random videos, I bet you I could come to a Nick Fuentes video in like 10 videos. Let's start. Nature is amazing. I'm starting with a farmer is like, goes up to a bull and pets the bull's nose. Let's see how long until I get a Nick Fuentes video. It'll happen eventually.
Previously, I never thought I would hear this from a fan
there
of
he is. I'm not following Del Groiper.
Gentiles even have souls because they actually don't mind when people say, I'm Christian. They don't really mind that. They don't mind when people say, oh, I'm Muslim, because Jews don't believe that Gentiles even have souls. Don't believe me? Look at what who they think is the Messiah says. The Hasidic Jews believe that Rabbi Schneerson, Nahum Mendel Schneerson, who was the Rebbe of the Chabad Lubavitch dynasty, they believe that he was the Messiah. He was the seventh Rebbe, the seventh generation leader of that Hasidic dynasty. He said, this is him, not me. This is not anti-Semite Nick Fuentes, anti-Semite Candace Owens. It's what he said. Rabbi Schneerson, who many Jews believe was the Messiah, who died, and they worship his gravesite.
Okay, my point is, that is an anti-Semite. That is an anti-Semite. And it took me 20 scrolls to find him shouting about how the Jews don't think Christians have souls. And getting to some arcane fucking interpretation of rabbinic tradition to justify his hatred of Jews. And Ethan Klein is out there going, I don't know, Ethan Klein follower. Oh, I think Hassan is worse than Nick Fuentes. That's the context.
Okay. Okay, well, how about we look on the right? Nick Fuentes. Which one do you think is more harmful?
Honestly, between them, Hassan Parker. He literally plays
Hassan Parker.
Previously, I never thought I would hear this from a fan of H3H3 podcast. The only place that I ever heard this from was Destiny's subreddit. And before my naysayers, the DDGers say, oh, obsessed, you're bringing up Destiny. No, they literally, for a very long time, made this claim that I was a bigger danger to America than Nick Fuentes.
I actually hate myself for saying this. And maybe, you know what? Maybe the pictures are true. I think I have more respect for Nick Fuentes than I do than anybody else on the left online right now. I think that he's probably more intelligent than most of them. I think he puts in more work than most of them. And I think that he lives like what he wants to do more than most of them.
I do not do
I love looking at stats. I look at them all the time.
You sound
Really?
way too happy about his fall off Destiny. You sound way...
Well, yeah, I hate him, of course. And he's like a political
Wait,
enemy.
really?
So. Yeah, but I'm just analyzing the stats right
you
now.
Don't hate, you don't hate him,
promoting
though,
this.
right?
Yeah, I think he's an evil person, yes.
Jesus.
Wait, really? You actually hate him?
Yeah, he's like a apologist terrorist supporter. Yeah, of course. He's an evil, disgusting person.
Then Nick Fuentes, who dined with the president, okay? A neo-Nazi who dined with the president. If you think that a
By the way, so
neo-Nazi...
the guy I just said, talking about how Jews don't think Christians have souls, is hanging out with Donald, has gone out and been in the same room with Donald Trump in Mar-a-Lago. And they're saying that Nick Fuentes is less dangerous than me and Hassan because we oppose the genocide in Gaza. I want you to understand that Destiny and Ethan Klein are not political. They are stalkers. They are obsessed freaks. I made a TikTok of you finding out he's an Epstein fan.
What's worse, what Hassan did, or like radicalizing hundreds of thousands of young white guys into thinking that Jewish people are subhuman, black people are subhuman, women don't deserve rights, etc.
Hassan does the exact same thing. Hassan has literally pushed propaganda against Jewish people, called every Jewish...
Yeah, I'm sorry, man. I'm just not even going to
That's just like not true. That's just actually not true.
Yeah, no, I have my critiques of Hassan, and I've spoken very publicly about them, but to say that Hassan has a worse impact on society than Nick
Fuentes is actually delusional. It's actually
that
delusional.
is actually fucking delusional, and I just don't even want to entertain such a level of...
Yeah, because it's a Destiny fan. Like legitimately, you have to understand. Like, the reason why we call it out as a Destiny fan, and people are kind of like, why are you always calling these guys Destiny fans? Because if you investigate them, they always are. You know what I mean? Like, at a certain point, when you investigate 500 people, and they're all Destiny followers, and they're all engaged in weird stalking behavior, I mean, at a certain point, you can just say this is Destiny's obsession. And he was from the H3 subreddit. There are screenshots of him talking about calling in. Okay, give me the link. Give me the link, imposter. Give me the link. And Destiny post. And Destiny post. And Hassan Piker post. And Ludwig post. And Yo, this dude said that Hassan is worse than a white supremacist neo-Nazi. And then his next post is in suicide help subreddit. I'm going to go ahead and close this before I say something that gets me banned. Bro, you got to leave Destiny's community, man. You got to leave Destiny's community, man. It is not helping you, man. It is not you got to get out of there, dude. All the other kids with the pumped up kicks. I just posted that I just reposted that chat on my TikTok, but I highly recommend you like that effort. That's crazy, dude. That's crazy, dude. Okay, where the fuck was the video I was watching? Fuck! Oh, it's the Ethan Klein. There you go.
See, who dined with the president, whose opinions are broadly reflected by people in President Trump's cabinet.
Mike cured me of my doomerism, and now I see the power I hold. Listen, kid out there. And first of all, I will say this. I can't tell you how many times that I have suffered setbacks in my life. And guess what? I've got another 30 fucking years, assuming I don't get shot, of effort in front of me. I want you, if you're 25 or 30 or 40 or 50 or 60 or 70 and younger, and you're coming in here belly aching about how nothing can ever change, Bernie Sanders is out there at 83 with loose dentures, rallying in front of thousands of people. Who the fuck do you think you are? I want you to think about 83 years ago and what America looked like. Stop being a bitch ass pussy.
It is not a more significant danger to America's future than someone like myself. You might be a Nazi, or at least you very clearly have demonstrated that someone who is an anti-Nazi unconditionally is a greater danger than someone who is an open Nazi. You might not think you are that way, but it's very obvious that you feel that way. You are saying it voluntarily. No, this isn't liberalism, chatter. This is like, unironically, this is a Hassan derangement syndrome. You've lost your mind.
What? You don't even know his last name.
Dude,
his last name is Piker.
Hassan Piker, my bad. I got one vowel off.
Wait, I'm so sorry, but saying that like Hassan produces worse outcomes for society than a neo-Nazi that loves and gets like 40,000 viewers is absolutely radical. It is absolutely
I disagree
insane.
because I don't think. Yeah, I just don't think that you really understand how
but
radical Hassan is.
But I want to like clarify.
I think one of the things that's really fucking pathetic is like you could just ask me what my views are and I'll tell you. And you could ask Nick Fuentes what his views are and he'll tell you. And then you can judge us. You don't have to do this like 8 levels of like reading into and bad faith interpretations and clips out of context. You could just ask us what we think and we'll tell you. You could hear the caller's voice shaking. My God. Yes, I know. But chat, here's the thing. You're used to listening to people like me. And I want you to understand right now, I am not like you. And I don't mean that as in like I'm better than you. I'm not. What I mean by that is my brain has been damaged in such a way that I don't care what you think about me. Like I do. Like I don't want all of you to hate me or anything. And I don't want you to like have bullshit, like believe wrong things about me. But what I mean by that is I come in front of you to speak about these issues. And I know what 5,134 people mean. And it doesn't bother me. That's fucking weird. That's fucking weird. Hassan going in front of like 30,000 people, 40,000 people and being normal is fucking weird. So your voice, what I'm trying to say is your voice would shake too. I'm defending the suicidal Destiny fan for having a shaky voice.
Fuentes has convinced hundreds of thousands of white guys that they should be white supremacists in the Holocaust.
I love how insane these haters look to normal people. Yeah, exactly. This is
By the way, this is the thing that I love the most. This is the thing I love the most about fighting with Destiny and Ethan Klein is they think that they could just say Mike and Hassan are terrorist supporters and that's going to end the conversation. They could be like, okay, I said they're a terrorist supporter, so now nobody listen to them, right? Like, oh, you guys, these guys are terrorist supporters. You should hate them. And then nobody listens to them and nobody cares. And the reason why that doesn't work, Ethan Klein, you would know this if you followed politics for any amount of time, is that Republicans have been saying that about left-wingers for 24 years, you dumbass. They've been calling us terrorist supporters for 24 years, you dumb piece of shit. So people are tired of that argument. They don't believe that argument. It's not enough to end the conversation, dummy. You have to actually show what we say and why it's bad. A 30-second clip out of context is not going to convince people who watch us for hours and hours and hours on end. Nobody in my audience thinks that I'm a Hamas supporter. No one. Why? Because they've listened to me speak on Israel-Palestine for hundreds of hours, and they realize Mike actually opposes Hamas because he sees Hamas as an organization that is in alignment with the Zionist radicals in the Netanyahu administration as a method of keeping the Palestinian people divided. The primary supporters of Islamist politics in the world are America and Israel and Saudi Arabia. If you oppose ISIS, if you oppose Al-Qaeda, then you oppose the United States of America and our allies, which is what historical and factual analysis will show you. Now, the other thing I say before people lose their shit at me is that the Palestinian people under international law have the absolute untrammeled right to resist occupation and blockade through military means if necessary. Because that's what the law says under international law. If you're going to do an occupation, then the people you're occupying have the right to shoot at you. If you're going to do a blockade, the people that you're blockading have the right to shoot at your blockade. That's just what international law says. And through the history of the world, liberatory movements have used peaceful and violent means to overthrow their oppressors. So just point blank saying, I don't think that you can just deny Palestinians the right to resist and call everybody who does so terrorists, and that ends the conversation. And everybody who's reasonable, whether they are international law professors, whether they are experts on the history of revolutionary and liberatory and decolonial movements, would disagree with me. So the only people that you can convince are your dumb parasocial fans who don't know dick from shit. And when you use, as Vienne puts it, Bush era anti-protest, anti-war arguments, everybody who's left of center and has a functioning cognition is going to look at you and say, hey, Ethan Klein, you sound like Dick Cheney. And nobody is going to listen to you except dyed-in-the-wool ideological extremist Zionists who brook no dissent of what Israel is doing. And that is the only allies. The only allies that he has now are fascists who are dedicated to opportunistically attacking Hassan when they can because they recognize him as a threat. So those are the groypers that try to cosplay as liberals to attack Hassan. There are Destiny and his fans of freaks, and Ethan Klein and his narcissistic breakdown with his loser fucking parasocial fans. I mean, imagine being parasocial for the guy famous for farting in a Denny's. Like, what the how are you parasocial with Ethan Klein? Like, Jesus fucking Christ, that's sad. For those of you who are Destiny supporters, what is the thing that makes you hate Hassan the most? What's the best argument you think? Like, what's the argument that convinces you? He says America bad to justify worldwide events and explain the reality, though that's not actual reality. JNR, I don't know where you're from, but that's what Destiny says to create a thought-terminating cliche, so you don't actually listen to what we are saying out loud. But he's right about the Middle East. Allying with the West is a sign that you're a dumbass. The United States is supporting a military dictatorship in Egypt, Al-Qaeda affiliate in Syria, Al-Qaeda affiliates in Libya, a theocratic monarchy in Saudi Arabia, more autocracies in the Gulf states, an anti-democratic coup for another autocrat with a secret police in Iran, and they illegally invaded Iraq after supporting Saddam Hussein, including giving him chemical weapons for decades. In what way has the West not been damaging in the Middle East? Which is what Hassan said in that clip.
Let me explain to you two principles that you should keep with you, coming from a person who's Turkish, okay? When you look at a situation in the Middle East, you look at what the local government is and who the Western forces are. Never align with the Western forces. That's one basic principle that you can take home with you. All of a sudden, on your foreign policy analysis, you're going to be better off than 90% of people that look at the situation. An example I tell you all the time is the Turkish coup d'etat. The American-backed forces in that situation was the terrorist cell of Fethullah Gülen. He still lives in the Poconos, by the way. The Muslim cleric Fethullah Gülen had aligned with the CIA. They slaughtered a ton of Turkish people in that coup d'etat. I can't even go back to Turkey because of all of my criticisms of Erdogan. And yet, I much prefer Recep Tayyip Erdogan to the American puppet. That's it. This doesn't mean I love Recep Tayyip Erdogan. This simply means that he is better than Fethullah Gülen. That's it.
So you said America bad is not correct, but then I just explained how America is supporting all of the worst agents in the Middle East. If you think radical Islamism is a problem, then you think America is a problem, because radical Islamism is a movement supported by and created by the United States to counter socialism, to counter pan-Arab nationalism. Why don't you care about all these times America is destroying democracy around the world? I mean, again, in every continent, America is going around supporting the most evil sons of bitches on the planet, and you're saying, well, no, you can't say America is done bad. Why? America is doing bad in the world. And the other thing that's really important here is like, for those, I don't want America to do bad, right? Like my point is that America is not benefiting from America doing bad. You and I are not benefiting from America doing bad in Saudi Arabia. You and I, our lives are not enhanced by Saudi Arabia dominating and spreading Wahhabism throughout the world, right? You and I are not doing better because we supported the Shah overturning Mohammed Mossadegh. You and I are not doing better because, you know, we're supporting a blockade on Cuba. You and I are not doing better because they're doing a blockade on Venezuela. You and I are not doing better from all the interventions and covert wars we're fighting. It's just not fucking true. And when you're talking about international Islamist terrorism, you know what the source of that shit is? Saudi fucking Arabia and the Gulf states. We're propping up the governments that are literally funding the Islamism that you say is an existential threat. So maybe, I don't know, I have an idea. If we get the fuck out of the Middle East and we stop propping up these states, maybe the Islamist movement will lose a little bit of steam. From U.S., the ABCs of Jihad, March 22nd, 2002. In the twilight of the Cold War, the United States spent millions of dollars to supply Afghan school children with textbooks filled with violent images and militant Islamic teachings, part of a covert attempt to spur resistance to the Soviet occupation. The primers, which were filled with talk of jihad, it features drawings of guns, bullets, soldiers, and mines, have served since then as the Afghan school system's core curriculum. Even the Taliban used the American-produced books, though the radical movement scratched out human faces in keeping with its strict fundamentalist code. So, literally, the ABCs of jihad were written in where? Published in the dominant Afghan languages of Dari and Pashto. The textbooks were developed in the early 80s under an USAID grant to the University of Nebraska, Omaha, and its Center for Afghanistan Studies. The agency spent $51 million on the university's education programs in Afghanistan from 1984 to 1994. During the time of Soviet occupation, regional military leaders in Afghanistan helped the U.S. smuggle books into the country. They demanded that the primers contain anti-Soviet passages. Children were taught to count with illustrations showing tanks, missiles, and landmines, the agency official said. They acknowledged that at the time, it also suited U.S. interests to stoke hatred of foreign invaders. Officials said private humanitarian groups paid for continued reprintings during the Taliban years. Hey, there's USAID again. Today, the books remain widely available in schools and shops to the chagrin of international aid workers. The pictures of the texts are horrendous to school students, but the texts are even worse, said Ahmed Fahim Hakim, an Afghan educator who is a program coordinator for Cooperation for Peace and Unity, a Pakistan-based nonprofit. So the United States literally created Islamism to fight what? Leftism. You're pretending like, oh, these guys are, this is guys, they're inferior culture. I'm Asmongold. I think they're, oh, wait, well, it turns out it was written in Nebraska, you dumbass, with a USAID grant. Why are you saying America bad? Have you considered that I don't like radical Islamism? Have you considered that I'm tired of the United States spreading religious fundamentalism so we could stop people from organizing labor unions and owning their own oil?
But I try to describe people like, if you hate watch me for this long, you are going to develop opinions that are so insane, okay? You are going to develop opinions that are so insane to the normal person that knows even a little bit, okay? You don't have to know the full breadth of my radical ideology, okay? You just need to know like a couple things. You need to know like Nazism is perhaps the worst thing you can be, okay? Even people who would otherwise...
So you're saying it is actually an inferior culture, meaning American Nebraskan culture? No, what I'm saying is that the idea that these movements propped up organically from an inferior culture that we then need to exterminate using deadly force against kids, which is Asmongold's belief, is false. That if the United States just withdrew from these regions, treated other countries with respect, and allowed them to develop their politics without our interference, they would not be dangerous Islamist terrorists going to New York City to bomb buildings. The United States should be focused at home at improving the lives of Americans. That's what they're doing in China. They're focused on improving the lives of Chinese citizens, of raising hundreds of millions of people out of poverty, of building tens of thousands of miles of high-speed rail and new housing. 90+% of Chinese people own their own homes. 70% plus of Chinese millennials own their own home. Can we, a much richer country per capita than China, can we do a fraction of that for our own people?
Consider me to be a radical, will still go, that's nuts. Unless
the B story in the chat is going crazy. What's the B story? What's going on in chat right now? I was doing a rant. AP is reporting a second arrest of a pro-Palestinian protester at Columbia. Disgusting.
Who have been brain broken and are operating on.
I'm aware of the undemocratic state of American politics, but Americans are afforded a far higher quality of life than their victims because of the actions of the government. I agree it's not in their best interest long term, but we can't realize the American workers are materially interested in work. I completely disagree with you. And again, China disproves it. China vastly increased the material conditions of the workers without engaging in radical imperialism abroad. So it's just not the case. What you're mistaking is the interest of the American and international capitalist class with the interests of American workers. And that's just not the fucking case. Like, for example, the American continent is energy independent. We don't need any energy from Saudi Arabia to power our consumption that we're doing right now. Like, you're just wrong.
And culture, and you have developed an incredibly unhealthy obsession born out of your favorite content creators' incredibly unhealthy obsession.
Look up labor aristocracy. The labor aristocracy is a CIA concept created by a anonymous anarchist CIA writer that was almost certainly a CIA agent. Literally, it was designed to create friction between working class movements in the West and liberation movements in third world countries, because that would operate as a powerful axis to resist American capital. It is a made up bullshit wrecker idea that is stupid in and of itself. That doesn't mean that American, for example, labor unions haven't collaborated with imperialism. Of course they have. But that is a specific instance of a specific organization. It doesn't mean that all workers have to do that. And by the way, the productivity of American workers is far greater than their consumption. You're just making shit up. And the reason why that happens is because we have something called industrial society. So workers produce far more than they consume. We don't rely, and it's just not the case that we would depend upon foreign exploitation and an unequal exchange. It's just not true. These systems of exploitation are set up in order to maintain political control and enrich a small sliver. And, you know, this is just a fundamental. I'm not saying that there isn't extraction happening. Yes, there is neo-imperialism happening. There is extractionism happening. But it overwhelmingly, the benefits of that overwhelmingly accrue to the capitalist class, not the workers at large.
Over someone like myself. Discovered caller posts in r/destiny and r/depression. Always.
Sure, Hassan just got banned for trying to incite somebody to kill a what was it, CEO or something, or not CEO? It was.
I have my critiques of Hassan.
This is such bitch-made loser shit. I have my critiques of Hassan. This is what you should say. Hassan didn't say that, you dumbass. That's literally not what he said. You're just lying. What he said is that if Mike Johnson really cared about Medicare fraud, he would kill Rick Scott, because Rick Scott, a senator from Florida, is one of the biggest Medicare fraudsters in history, but he's a Republican politician in good standing who's a leader of the Senate Republican leadership. He's like a member of the Senate Republican leadership. So obviously Republicans don't care about Medicare fraud. They're lying. They just want to cut benefits for regular people. Now, he wasn't saying, now, Mike Johnson, the point of that was not to say, Mike Johnson, go kill Rick Scott. The point of that was was a hyperbolic statement that proves hypocrisy. You're just lying because you're a baby and you're stupid and you know you're stupid. You're a baby and you're stupid and you know you're stupid and you think, well, I'm going to pretend to be this stupid and you can't prove that I'm not this stupid. And you're right. I can't prove that you're not this stupid. You are a Destiny fan. But no one who's sane thinks that's what Hassan was saying. They're just lying because they're playing a game. He's stupid for defending Hassan. No, it's stupid to go, I have disagreements with Hassan. I have disagreements with Hassan. You're accepting the frame, which is loser shit.
I actually don't hold this one too far against him, because watching like the entirety of the clip, it was made incredibly clear that he was saying that if Congress, if these other Republicans really cared about Medicaid fraud, as they'd pointed out, that they'd unalive this Rick guy, because Rick committed the largest instance of Medicaid fraud that has ever occurred in our country. And then Hassan went on to own up to it, take accountability, and said that that was an incredibly hyperbolic statement and there was a billion ways to word it better. I don't think that that's comparable to making hundreds of thousands of young white guys want to like kill like Jewish people. I don't think it is at all. I don't think that's comparable in the slightest.
So Dean, I know you're smart. I know you know what a dog whistle is. When you say something like,
I want you to respond. I want you to respond.
Okay,
What's worse, what Hassan did, or like radicalizing hundreds of thousands of young white guys into thinking that Jewish people are subhuman, black people are subhuman, women don't deserve rights, etc.
Hassan does the exact same thing. Hassan has literally pushed propaganda against Jewish people, called every Jewish.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man. I'm just not even gonna.
That's just like not true. That's just actually not true.
Yeah, no, I have my critiques of Hassan, and I've spoken very publicly about them. But to say that Hassan has a worse impact on society than Nick Fuentes
is actually delusional. It's actually delusional.
It's one of the most insane things. I'm glad that these guys are pushing back on it, but apparently this is the guy. Dean Withers scared to debate about Hassan and downplays his misdeeds. This was posted on the H3H3 Production subreddit. This was from his One Liberal versus 100 Trump supporters 24 stream VOD a day ago. I'm sorry, voting for Trump because you think the left is toxic is crazy. I'm actually the one who was on the video. Didn't actually vote Trump. That was just the only way I could get him to talk about Hassan, because he was only talking to Trump supporters. Damn, even more disappointing, but very good job of getting onto the call. Thanks. He only put me on eventually because I said he was scared in the chat, lol. Big ego. It's just
incredible how dumb they are. Like, I don't do those phone call-in shows because they're boring, in my opinion. It's very boring. You get the same arguments. It's so repetitive. It's boring. They're never intelligent. You know, you have to. It's like very bottom tier content, which is why I just don't care. I mean, I already feel like politics is repetitive enough. It's like, honestly, it's like panning for gold in a pigsty. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, you're just panning through the same shit. And you know, it's not a place to find gold nuggets, okay? How do you ever promote and then get change? If you stay in the space, nothing will ever change. No, I never said that. Ethan Klein of disavowing people they know is not an invitation to send them hate online. And now...
Hey Dan, do you have any comment on why you won't let Ethan Klein stream on your platform?
He is
the
streaming on the
Hassan content nuke?
He is.
Why he got banned twice?
It got reversed.
It got reversed, but it was like it was not an automatic ban. Do you have any comment on that?
No comment.
No comment? All right, good to know. Appreciate it.
By the way, guys, I can say right now, like, you know, I'm not a body language expert, but I will say this. If I were Destiny filling out appeals to get unbanned on Twitch, I think I might stop. You know, I'm not a body language expert, but I don't think Dan Can't Stream and Destiny are going to get unbanned anytime soon. I don't know. I'm not a body language expert, but hey, brother in Christ, I say this with peace and love, but you would not last on the Raj Royale. I was on the Raj Royale 4 times and I finished 3rd one time when I had 200 average viewers. Austin Show was in my chat yesterday saying how I convinced him to no longer be a liberal. Anything else? So Jimmy Page, you came into my chat, you followed for 2 minutes, then you wrote this. Where did you come from? Like, who's your favorite content creator in politics? Like, who do you listen to? Let's have a conversation with you through the text. I can't wait to see this. By the way, here's the receipts from Austin Show being in my stream yesterday. I am a leftist now. I have converted. The Democratic Party fucking sucks. This was my friend. You know, he's my buddy, my friend. I've known him. He's been following me since January 24th, 2020. Both Hassan and Epstein are weird. I asked who your favorite content creator were, and you brought up Epstein and Hassan. Who's your political? Who's the guy you listened for politics? So anyway, you would stand to the Raj Royale. This is my favorite thing about Epstein fans. You think we're in a bubble. You're in a bubble. I debated Destiny 8 times and he ran away. And then he started harassing me like a psycho for 6 fucking years. And stalking my every move, trying to look for a clip where I didn't look attractive, which is not hard. I'm a 40-year-old fucking man from Pennsylvania in a long-term relationship. And I'm like, you know, like, what the fuck are you talking about? Mike, you don't look like a 20-year-old model. Isn't that cringe? No, motherfucker, this is politics. Have you seen Asmongold? Call-in show where callers are asked to sign a document waiving their right to complain about being ideologically bullied. It's just very boring because they don't have anything. I've been so... Carter is the GOAT. Damn, that's embarrassing, man. That's embarrassing, man. I could just like go over and get Carter to ban you. First of all, you don't watch Carter because Carter is literally a Hassan simp. He literally gets on his hands and knees to kiss Hassan's feet. And there's nothing wrong with that. But like, come on. Asmon says Nazis burned LGBTQT plus books because they were Jewish, while at the same time his chat calls it a Nazi W and based. This is what happened to 4chan from what I heard. It used to be trolls, but actual racists heard about 4chan as a racist hub and joined, and now that's what the majority of the users over there. I've never used 4chan. This is what I've heard in videos and streams. It's not like they don't know it was trolling there. The actual giga racists are aware of it, but they can slowly turn the place with jokes and drip feeding their actual views. Hide your power level is a common phrase in these spaces for a reason. Hide your power level is what certain right-wing parties often do if the time is right. Bit like the game Secret Hitler. There are ones who are not good at the game, and that helps to see it. Hassan literally said in a podcast he hides his power level to sucker people in, then radicalizes them into glazing terrorist orgs. Watch the content nuke for the clip. I've already lost, by the way, chat, I have already lost 20 pounds since last year. Isn't that great? Isn't that great? I got a little bit fat when I moved to Vegas. Vio kept taking me to Korean barbecue and I admit I got pretty plump. I'm not gonna lie. I got to my heaviest point. It's Vio's fault is what I'm saying. I need to lose another 20 and then I'll be good. Let's look more into Jimmy Page. Wait, did he delete his account? Oh, okay, here we go. Pepe cryptocurrency, Dogecoin, live stream fail, Wall Street bets elite, and he's Colombian. Interesting. Colombian crypto guy who's a fan of Asmongold. Okay. Thank you, man.
So freakish to behave like
only
this.
30 days of history. Yeah, I know.
It's like he's like, oh, I'm not actually a Trump supporter. I lied about that to get on the call to just get him to talk about Hassan. What are you doing? What are you doing? This person is a Destiny poster, by the way, of course, if you didn't know, and now is a firm foot soldier planted in the H3H3 community. Like, I genuinely think Destiny's unhealthy obsession over the course of the past 5-6 years now has caused these people to not even be Destiny fans. They're just like, I'll go anywhere that says Hassan. They will move on from Destiny if need be, if they can find a new weapon to wield. Like, they don't even know why they me. This guy doesn't even know my name. Like, that's psychotic. You don't know my name. You don't even know what my last name is. And your obsession is to this degree. These guys also personally think they're smarter than liberals, by the way. They're snarking over the randomest things. It's crazy. Muda throws down the gauntlet with Hassan. Mudahar offers to pay for an entire trip to Palestine with Hassan so they can do journalism. It comes after Hassan questioned his genocide stance. Never seen this guy do anything of substance. On my own dime, I will fly both of us down to Israel and drive across the border. Is Mudahar trying to get murked? I already... Okay. That's so funny. I don't think he understands how this process goes. If he thinks that I haven't done my due diligence in terms of like doing exactly that, he's a little silly. That's what's so... You're getting Substack hit pieces not to... Yeah, whatever. That's... None of that means anything, okay? It's all background noise. We're giving it more attention than it deserves, okay? Yeah, money was stopping me. Mudahar's like, in order to make sure that we can... In order to entertain...
Yeah, I know, Nuclear Crescent. We talked about that.
Hassan, I am going to die to a Boeing rocket. I like to think that the only thing stopping me from going to Gaza is money. That's what it is. You're right. And not like valid security concerns, and not from Hamas, by the way, from Israel. You think a certain content creator for over a decade would sense a sudden schism and shift in their audience and perhaps question whether there are new long-term dedicated followers or just people using you as a vehicle and cudgel against their ideological enemy? But what do I know? No. I think when you're that desperate to find allegiances, you don't give a bros about it. He's willing to get drone strike for drama. Yeah, I know. It's so fun, dude. The other part of this is, once again, the other part of this also is the fact that people who are going to hype up that delusion, the other people that are hyping up that delusion, that fantasize about how like it's only dangerous in Gaza because of Palestinians and because of Hamas or whatever, are the same people that don't understand that Israel has assassinated 170 or 142 journalists in like historic numbers. Okay, historic numbers of assassinated journalists. More journalists were killed in this past year than World War II and their families. And you're over here being like, oh, dude, it's just totally safe. Why? Why isn't there American journalists in Gaza right now? Anyway, this is precisely the reason why, no matter what people say, no matter what dumbasses say about how like I'm more dangerous of a figure than Fuentes because they're brain broken. They're not even a liberal at that point. They're just like genuinely schizophrenic. I will still advocate for the things I'm advocating for with the hopes that people will wake up to that reality. This is what I've done. My
XQC crashing out. Like the other thing is like this is like XQC and the kind of gambling, crypto gambling guys basically destroying themselves and all their communities' lives by getting them into these like shady online casino websites and then just like being sucked into gambling addiction. Like, can you imagine if you had hundreds of millions of dollars and just you spent all that time and money alone in your room playing slots on your computer? Like, that is just so sad and pathetic. I can't actually consider, I can't come up with a worse fucking life than that. Like, legitimately. I legitimately can't. Like, he can, like, they can call me ugly, cringe, whatever the fuck, fat, dumb, jealous of clout, whatever. But like, I just can't imagine a worse life than just sitting alone in your room with hundreds of millions of dollars and just playing slots all day. If I had XQC's money, you know what I would be doing? I'd be trying to figure out ways that I could do like live streamed parachuting. Like, I would be so fucking cool. Like, I would be like doing something fun and fucking cool. Just anything but this.
Chat, this is a Hassan stream now, boys.
You're literally LARPing.
Yo, chat, this is a Hassan. Yo, what's up, chat? Holy. Chat, let me tell you about Palestine. Hold on a minute. Holy Chad. Oh, damn, son.
I do love the idea that Hassan is a big muscle man. Like, I wish I was at 1% as bisexual as XQC and Ethan Klein and Destiny are. Because, like, I just like Hassan for what he says, right? Like, I like Hassan for what he says. I wish I had the horniness they had. I just don't. I just don't like men. I don't find men attractive at all. And it's a shame, you know? But these guys are sexually interested.
Holy shit. Chat.
You're missing out. Have you met men? Being sexually attracted to men is like the most risky thing you could possibly do. Men are fucking insane. Like, I like to make I'm friends with a lot of guys, and I like to keep that respectful male friend distance. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? I can't imagine what it would be like. I don't want to imagine a man horny for me and like coming at me. Gross. This is my most homophobic take. Men are disgusting.
This is what I've done my whole political commentary career. First, you say, that's not true. You're being hyperbolic. Then you turn around and you go, okay, maybe you had some good points. And then you go, holy shit, it might be far too late.
I'm going to give you a Stavi statement on dating men. Yeah, like, I love, like, gay people are cool as hell. Queer people are cool as hell. I love queer people. Like, you know, you do what makes you feel good. But goddamn, dating men is fucking foul. And I get that gay men are different than regular men. I actually think being a straight woman is the most perverted thing that you can be. I get that gay men have higher standards and like take care of themselves and work out and like care about fashion and like clean themselves and shit. I get that gay men are different than men as a subcategory, but I think straight women are actually the most perverted group. I think like straight women are the most perverted group, quietly. It's like being sexually interested in a raccoon or something. That is the level of freak being sexually attracted to straight men is. I've said this take before. I wholeheartedly believe it. Like, people, it's crazy. You have men that dress well. They call them metrosexuals. Okay, that's like from what year is it? 2001? Like, what are you talking about? Metrosexual shit. Yes, there are men that dress well. That is true. That is true. That's why women have a lot of crushes on gay content creators and actors and shit, because they take care of themselves. Oh, okay, dude, thank you for showing me your little plane. Thanks for your drone. The tangent is deductive. Yeah, it's very true. Mike, as a gay man who's received unwanted attention from men who are much larger than me, it's not a pleasant experience. And you can look at my last chat for how much I like hot buff dudes. It's not a homophobic take at all. Thank you. Thank you for giving me the pass.
Week, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and I will be going to Colorado.
By the way, chat, my feeling about AOC is that she was so overrated for so long that she's now underrated. That's my feeling about AOC. And I am not a fan, but I feel like people have gone too far. Like, they've gone too far in their like anti-AOC, you know, shit. And I think she hit a low point last year. I think that was the most politically unastute she ever was. And I hope she's getting better. I hope she's getting better. I hope she gets the fire back. Bro, where is the Stavi link?
But yeah, it's interesting. I also feel the same thing for you too, because I do feel like you're trying to settle down a little bit here, isn't it? Don't you feel like I am trying. You're trying. But I'm not. You're up against the wall that you're trying also to settle down with a man. I'm trying to settle down with a man. We're both men. Then that's tough. You know, not good. Yeah. No, it's I don't know, man. I'm like, I do want it. I want a family. I want kids. I want to settle down with someone. I do have long now thought that it would be lovely to come home to someone who loves me and like build a home together. That's cute. I think that'd be beautiful and lovely. Yeah. I love that. I love the couples in my life that.
I mean, in an argument in favor of dating people is it's nice to have someone that you could just care about and be gay with. You know what I mean? Like, you could just be lame and it's okay. That's why long-term relationships are cool. Where you could just like have someone and you could just be yourself and they love you for yourself. And when I say be gay, what I mean is you don't have to worry about society's expectations. It's the expectations that you build for each other. And you could show affection, you could show vulnerability, and you could show care. And that's relationships. That's what makes relationships great, is when you find somebody that you can trust and who trusts you. That is and you know, I hope that happens for everybody.
I think there's so many beautiful couples in my life who work so well together. I think my friends Kevin and Katie, like, they have a beautiful love. I'm rooting against. I don't think they're gonna make it. Yeah, you don't think so? Yeah, just from what I've seen. Yeah, okay. No, I don't know them. I don't know them at all. I don't know them at all. I'm just a joke. I just think about my friends Tom and Nancy. I just think about these people who have them either. They're not gonna happen for them. They have beautiful relationships. They do their own thing. They still have their own friends, but they come together. It's lovely. And I do want that, but I have not found the person. Yeah. But I'm starting to wonder, am I the problem? Yeah. Because I do. Probably. It gets to a, sure. Yeah, almost certainly. It gets to a certain point and I lose interest. I think they can't be the one. I'm like, maybe I do just need to find like a roommate version. No, don't do that. Maybe I need to walk in on gay guy terms. I am a romantic. You're romantic in your little heart. I am a romantic. But you know what? I need to cool it on the romance, because here's something I've noticed recently. Okay. I am a romantic. I'll call people when I'm dating someone. I call them on the phone, talk, chit chat. Love that. I'll send flowers sometimes. That's cute. I like to do stuff like this. What's wrong with that? Well, I do it, and then it gives the impression that I'm trying to get into something serious, and I am trying that. But I think I sometimes do it too quick, and then people go. Well, I enjoy it. It's pure, but that's. Yeah, you're saying, well, I do these things. I'm sending these clear messages, and people are reacting to them. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, I need to slow it down a little bit until I'm sure. Because I'm sending the like, let's lock it down vibe. They're picking it up and enjoying it, and then I'm being like, whoa. Well, I do the same. To be fair, I'm shitting on you, but I do the straight male version of that, which is just being nice to a woman. Yeah. You know, like, it doesn't really take much romance for a woman to think you're a good person compared to how everybody else treats them. So it's like, if I'm dating somebody, I'm just like kind of communicative and like ask questions and like remember things they said. They're like, whoa, he's in love with me. Yeah. You know what I mean? But I do want to actually fucking, maybe you need to just wait a little bit, but you're there. I think you can do it. The
standards for straight men are so low and men don't reach them. The bar is an absolute hell. And like, I get why like Zoomers are like having less sex. And the reason why they are is because since we're so much more shut-ins, like our culture is so much more like being in your apartment and less being out and about. You know, there's less opportunities for like chance encounters and just passion and spontaneity. And it's more like you have to think about somebody else. And like when women start thinking about men rationally, men are in trouble. I mean, like Asmongold is popular. Like legitimately, Asmongold is popular. Like if you're a straight woman and you found out you know, somebody you were interested in was an Asmongold super fan, you would be done instantly. You would be gone. And you would be justified to be gone. And he's like extremely popular among young men. You know, it's same thing with Andrew Tate or like any of these other fucking guys. You're gone.
Romance is beautiful, and you know where you can see a lot of romances in the romantic comedy Sweethearts, folks.
Good God.
Out on Max in just a couple days, and so please check that out. And in the meantime, I think we need to take some of your folksy down-home wisdom and bring it to our callers here, Caleb.
That was like watching Babe Ruth point and then hit a home run. That was so beautiful.
Thanks, man.
I'm in awe of you
Thanks,
as a podcaster.
man. What can
I got banned in his chat yesterday for saying he should talk to Hassan instead of communicating through clips. They've talked so many. Every single time Asmon and Hassan have talked, Asmongold dissembles for like hours and then ultimately folds. So he doesn't want to talk about shit because he doesn't know anything. And I bet you, and part of the reason why he doesn't want to talk about Hassan, here is my unhinged conspiracy theory. Normally he would have Destiny in his DMs feeding him lines, but Destiny, love him or hate him, and everybody here hates him. I don't think Destiny agrees with deporting the Palestinian protesters, right? Like maybe he does. I don't know. I don't know how unhinged he is. Maybe he does say that he's in favor of that. Maybe he does think it's good to deport a guy. I don't know. I haven't actually looked into it. I guess maybe it's just such an illiberal opinion. It's such a right-wing opinion. Maybe he does, because he is kind of a mega Zionist. So I don't know.
Can I say I'm a pro?
Let's get questions.
Let's do it. We just talk so long because it's so fun to.
Even Charlemagne says Schumer and Hakeem have got to go.
Party of inaction. The Democrats have failed to protect the interests of the American people. And you know why, Dems suck at messaging? Because they never talking about nothing. And they do nothing. So guess what? To me, they all got to go. Like Dems don't just have a messaging problem. They got to leave.
Can we start a new party, Bernie? Come on. At least try. You're 83. What do you got to lose? You're an independent. Can you try? What does Bernie Sanders have to lose? Like, what does Bernie Sanders have to lose? Oh, no, the Democrat, he doesn't even accept the Democratic nomination. Like, there's never been a man in the history of America better positioned to start a new party than Bernie Sanders right now. Never in our history. Bernie Sanders is yes, I wish he was younger. So fucking what? He's not. Donald Trump is 80 something too. Who gives a shit? Who fucking cares? Now is the time. I don't care if he's 95 or 99 or 110. If he's able to go out there and talk, that's good enough for me.
Leadership problem.
Whatever you wish. Thank you for my mush. Theo's been giving me oatmeal for breakfast, and I call it mush. Bernie said he was considering starting a new party. I deserve that. I shouldn't have believed you. Bernie Sanders doing something I agree with, like that's that bold? Of course not.
The Chuck Schumers of the world, the Hakeem Jeffries, they should all step down, and any Dem who isn't fighting for the people and standing with the party should be primary. Like, how can you say the bill sucks, but you're passing it anyway? Like, you're not going to even try to, present something different, try to negotiate nothing? Just it sucks, but we're going to pass it anyway.
Yeah, that's been the commentary. Basically, I think a lot of the world agrees with you on that because it just seems as though the Democrats can't come together on anything.
Nothing.
So
Ever.
Yeah.
Nothing at all. No. So what's the point of voting for them? Like, literally.
Well,
I don't even understand it, man. I don't even understand the argument against it at this point. The only argument against it is, well, how are you going to make people do it? And it's like, the only way it's going to happen, I want you guys to understand something. It's just when people are yelling for it. Stop asking for a plan. Just start yelling for it. Start demanding it. Just start demanding it. Just be like, Bernie, start a new party. Bernie, start a new party. Just start demanding it. It's not my job. And by the way, keep yelling. Keep yelling about it. The more people that yell about a thing, the more likely it is to occur. Just keep yelling.
Next week, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and I will be going to Colorado.
Splitting up the left sounds like a bad idea in terms of Republicans winning a lot easier than no. But you're misunderstanding reality. You're misunderstanding reality. What actually happens is grassroots voters don't split evenly or whatever. They will change their vote and they will abandon this old Democratic Party. Maybe it doesn't happen in one cycle. So fucking what? If I told you it would take 2 cycles to get an amazing progressive Labor Party into the majority in the House and the Senate and take the White House in 2028, you would say no because you're worried about 2026? If I told you we were in a position to pass a Green New Deal in 2029, you would say no, I can't lose one election? What are you talking about? It would unite the left, except with new generation of leadership, with non-corrupt, non-bought out, non-machine politicians, but rather grassroots politicians from the people. That's what you're seeing in Mexico, and a lot of people would switch parties. Good. And there would be fits, and there would be starts, and there would be corrupt people in power. There would be failures. You have to be okay with failing if you want to succeed in anything that matters. But at some point, you have to take the plunge. At the one point, you have to put your head below the water if you want to learn how to swim. At a certain point, you have to go into water deeper than where your feet can touch. Everything is there's going to be risk in life. Learn to embrace uncertainty and risk and fight for a better world.
Thank you. Well, thank you all. Thank you. Thank you all. No. It is not Bernie. If there is ever a time in American history where it's not one person, but millions of people, this is that time. Thank you.
But I do agree with him. Now I'm a fan, but maybe it might be too late.
Let's finish this
I
Ethan
saw
Klein
this
show.
post. Ex-Asman fan jumping ship over here. I'm officially jumping ship over here. I can't stand Asman in his brain rock community any longer. He should have stuck to gaming instead of dumb spewing on this politics arc of his. He has zero education and doesn't do any actual research, but is influencing millions of people every day on misinformation and lies. His audience is becoming radical. This is why Asmongold won't actually have a conversation with me. This is the type of this is the reason why he doesn't want to have a conversation. This is the real reason why he doesn't want to have a conversation. Because he's worried that it's going to make him look bad, like he's not knowledgeable on the issues that he speaks on. It's going to frustrate a lot of these people. He spent an hour talking about you today. Yes, of course. And he's going to continue talking about me. He's going to probably talk about me even more. But this is it. There's no more soul in his community no more. It's all just racism and extremism now. I came across Hassan the past couple of weeks, and it's been such a pleasure seeing someone with the balls to call Asman out on his bullshit, just sucking him off like most content creators. So yeah, I'm happy to be here, and hopefully I'm accepted here. Edit. I'm surprised there are so many other ex-Asman fans in here as well. I feel right at home. That is a reason. That is part of the reason. And it's not my intention to like steal Asmongold's audience or whatever. I would have no issues. Look, here's the thing. Asmongold has always been a larger content creator than me. I have no problems with that. Wonderful. What I do have a problem with is when you have a prominent community, like a massive community, and you're just like feeding them to the goddamn gills with not only Republican propaganda, but also just falsehoods in general, with no care or consideration for the truth. That shit is very frustrating. Okay, it normalizes reactionary sentiment. It makes the platform more toxic in general. It's not good. It's not good at all. If Asmongold was at his size and doing liberal politics even if he disagreed with me, I wouldn't care. You understand? As long as he wasn't spending all of his time being like, this guy Hassan is a very dangerous terrorist. We need to deplatform him. And he's not doing liberal commentary. He's doing right-wing commentary and doing that at the same time. He just goes, Hassan isn't an expert in this either. It's an opinion. Yeah, except my opinion is grounded by facts and research. His opinion is not grounded by anything. It's just whatever chat said last. He knows it too. If he thought that we just had simple disagreements of opinion, he would have a conversation with me every day of the week. He could undermine my position. He could show his audience how wrong I was. He doesn't want to do it because he knows he will look like he's not knowledgeable on this issue, and he's just talking out of his because that's precisely what it is. But when you're right wing, you can do that because your audience doesn't know too much either. So yeah, I am. The reality is I'm not the smartest person, but I'm certainly educated on the subject matter that I discuss. Yeah, I said Asmongold thinks it's a violation of free speech when devs make video game boobs smaller, but when the DHS openly kidnaps a green card holder for being pro-Palestine, he thinks it's awesome and not a violation of the First Amendment. Classic free speech defender stuff right here. This like went viral on Gaming Circle Jerk. in a locked post. You're literally invited by Oxford and Cambridge to speak on topics like this. I know. No amount of institutional legitimacy will cause these people to turn around and be like, maybe he does know what the he's talking about. I mean, if they cared about that, they would look to who I interview, whether it be Bernie Sanders or literal journalists and academics that have spent their entire lives on these issues. They would look to that and go, okay, maybe he does know what he's talking about. But no, of course, they don't know any of that shit. They just think, Hassan is a guy who just reads Twitter, not realizing what I'm reading on Twitter either. It's just a very easy cliche to just be like, don't listen to him. He's a hypocrite. Don't listen to him. He doesn't know what he's talking about. It's cult-like thinking. Be open-minded. Maybe you will be convinced. What's the worst thing? Maybe you'll learn the truth.
Look at how the people are calling out for leadership.
I'm a veteran and you don't give a fuck about me. You're taking shut the fuck up. You don't get the fuck to do this to us. You don't get to take away our rights. You don't get to take our health. Get off of me. You don't get to do this to us. Fuck you.
Yes.
He's on the right to speak.
By the way, chat. Later today, I'm going to be playing more Split Fiction with VO. Who watched us play Split Fiction? Did any of you watch us play Split Fiction? Did you stay and watch the whole time? You fucking pieces of... No. We're going to play faster this time. Yesterday, it was like... we didn't start for like 45 minutes after I raided, but I think we're going to get like right into it. So if you want to see some gaming... The dinging was too much. Yeah, I know. The dings were kind of awful, not going to lie. I didn't really hear it because I was playing my own game. The thing about VO is a little bit unhinged. And when you're a performance artist, you just start doing things to kind of like, you're really fascinated with human beings. That's the thing about performance artists. They're just fascinated with human beings and like the way we react and like the surface of like acceptability and what is a surface of motivation, and like you have to be in the right headspace for it. I get that. I think we're not going to be doing as much dinging. I think VO wants to do more like she wants to be egged or something. I don't know. I want to convince VO to do tomato stream. VO, can we should get some big beefsteak tomatoes and smash those on you. That might be cheap since eggs are so expensive these days. All right, let's keep going. Anyway, we're gonna play some Split Fiction later.
So to be clear, I deeply value the contributions that
Just to be clear,
make
bullshit, and you're not
Quiet down. Every day.
Let him speak. Let him
Services. For example, folks at the National Weather Service are fired.
God, I legitimately think that like this is what we need more of.
Yeah, that's Wolf Warrior 1. Apparently Wolf Warrior 2, the follow-up, was even more, I guess, in the Western press.
I just miss Matt Crispin because like Matt Crispin would be cooking right now. I'm just thinking about like what it would be like if we had Matt Crispin and Michael Brooks at peak form right now. I understand that I'm not enough, you know, and like the two other content creators who I considered myself most closely aligned to are no longer really making content. You know, one because he suffered a serious medical condition, the other died, and you know how much that sucks. You know that the people that I respected the most are not here in this moment when they're needed the most. It really sucks. Was Michael Brooks even that radical?
More controversial because of how explicitly it makes America the bad guy, and how even more sort of jingoistic and nationalistic it was. So Matt, what do you remember from Wolf Warrior 2? Like, what's the general plot?
Before I begin, I have a statement to read. Dear Eternal President Xi,
From afar, I have greatly admired your stewardship of the Chinese Communist Party. It is clear by now that socialism with Chinese characteristics offers the only viable global alternative to terminally declining U.S. dollar hegemony. The comprehensive deepening of reform at home, coupled with the visionary Belt and Road Initiative abroad, are offering a stable basis for the development of a worldwide alliance of progressive national elements towards the long-term goal of overthrowing Anglo-American finance capital and establishing global communism. However, there is one issue with your leadership that sadly prevents me from offering my official endorsement of Xi Jinping thought. A black mark on your record that has become increasingly difficult to ignore. The presence of CGI blood and muzzle flashes in Chinese action blockbusters such as Wolf Warrior 2. If the 1980s-style action films of your regime are going to insist on using the contemporary Washington consensus approach to action special effects, sacrificing verisimilitude and awesomeness on an altar of grim budgetary efficiency, perhaps party-led development really is functionally identical to neoliberal capitalism. As such, I am hereby calling for the U.S. to renew its commitment to defending the sovereignty of Taiwan, supporting the struggle of freedom fighters in Hong Kong, and calling on our State Department to increase diplomatic pressure to force regime change, to punish the continued persecution of the Uyghurs, whatever they're called. Anyway.
I knew it. I knew it was coming. Yes. Yes. Sadly, Wolf Warrior 1 and 2 does use CGI bullet hits.
Yeah. I don't know what I'm watching, why I'm watching this. I'm sorry. Yes, it has all of the beats of the classic 80s action films that we all loved and grew up with and that Hollywood does not make anymore, but video game garbage. There's no immersion. There's no kineticism. They do use like real tanks sometimes, and some of the car crashes and stuff are okay. But every time anybody gets shot, which in Wolf Warrior 2 is a ton, it's just this totally kayfabe breaking eruption of digitized viscera. It just takes me out of it, and it just makes me think there is no hope. That China cannot stand up to American hegemony, because everybody at the end of the day is not going to be able to argue with the budgetary rationale of not using real squibs and blanks. And it just makes me despair for the future. That's for sure.
Do you think, Matt, do you think that if the Federal Republic of Yugoslavia still existed and Tito, let's say Tito's an immortal being, which, maybe he was, maybe he's going to be back.
He's occluded, I think.
Yeah, he's
the occluded Tito.
Yeah, everyone, big things coming. He's coming back. But do you think that would be the one country that would still make movies with squibs? If they made, I
believe in him. I believe that the eternal Tito and his model for socialism would have given workplace power, and workplace power would have meant, hey, let's keep the guy on set to put the fucking squibs on the guy. Instead of turning it over to Fiverr to do a bunch of fucking pixel bullshit.
If there's one place in the world where squibs still existed, it is Eastern Europe.
Oh my God! Yeah. No.
It's like, somebody's arm gets blown off, big deal. Give him a giant Flintstones chewables container of oxys, and he's fine.
But Matt, isn't it all the more depressing, like the budgetary restrictions? Because doesn't Wolf Warrior 2 end with like an actual bombardment by the Chinese Navy of like a fucking, like they actually blew up like with fucking like battleship guns, like an actual fucking building? Like
it's like a mixture of CGI and actual footage of rockets being launched off of a Chinese naval vessel. Yeah. And then blowing up some tanks.
It is depressing because Wolf Warrior 1, there were probably 20 tanks, 15 jeeps, and like nearly 30 helicopters of every variety, attack and transport, utilized in the filming of this movie. So, it's you're right. It is depressing that the bullet hits are still CGI.
I'm telling you, man, if they were using squibs in these movies, I would be selling my services to such as they are. Hell, I would let them send me down to the countryside. I would harvest millet if I got to see action movies with fucking squibs on a consistent basis. But instead, I have to rot here in America because there's no hope anywhere in the world.
Can you guys close your ears for a second, just for no reason?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. President Xi, I know that we are not yet at the stage of socialism yet where we can use squibs. I know that that there has to be more development. I don't really know where I know that from. I just know it. I feel it. I feel it in my heart. I know there's more stuff you have to do. I'm not a Monday morning quarterback. I don't do purity politics. I know you're the man in the arena. I know that eventually we're going to get to the point where we see squibs. I will sell all 3 of these fucking losers out. I will go there. I'm offering my services. No one in your entire God bless you. You guys are doing amazing. No one in your entire country has Jewish movie magic secrets, the secrets of TV. It is the one thing you don't have. I can offer it. I could, in the next century, you are going to have to compete with Ken Olin. I do not want you to fall to him. I'm offering my services. All I ask for is $10 million a year for the rest of my life forever. Thank you. And I want to be on Chinese Raya.
See, man, Chapo, that is a level of Friday Fun Day content that I'm talking about. Ah, man. Holy shit, dude. Did you guys see the Chinese ambassador? Did I show you guys that? I feel like I did, but maybe I didn't. Have I seen this? U.S. and Israel look to Africa for moving Palestinians uprooted from Gaza. The U.S. and Israel have reached out to officials of 3 East African governments to discuss using their territories as potential destinations for moving Palestinians uprooted from the Gaza Strip. The contacts with Sudan, Somalia, and the breakaway region of Somalia known as Somaliland reflected determination by the U.S. and Israel to press ahead with the plan that has been widely condemned and raised serious. This is the Nazi plan. This is the Nazi plan. This is the fucking Madagascar plan. Because all 3 places are poor and in some cases racked by violence, the proposal also casts doubt on Trump's stated goal of resettling Gaza's Palestinians in a beautiful area. What the fuck? The idea of a mass transfer of Palestinians was once considered a fantasy of Israel's ultra-nationalist fringe, but since Trump presented the idea at a White House meeting last month, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had hailed it as a bold vision. Palestinians in Gaza have rejected the proposal, dismissed Israeli claims that the departures would be voluntary. Arab nations have expressed vehement opposition and offered an alternative reconstruction plan that would leave the Palestinians in place. Rights groups have said forcing or pressuring the Palestinians to leave could be a potential war crime. Still, the White House says Trump stands by his vision. Oh my Lord. The Palestinians would just immediately start doing piracy on the Red Sea even more. What? What? Even if they did it, let's imagine they did it and they moved 2 million Palestinians to say Sudan or something. They would immediately start doing more fucking attacks. What are you talking about? You're putting them right into the fucking Red Sea. What are you talking about? This would cause a regional war. I mean, here's the thing. The United States of America, Egypt is a puppet of the U.S. Jordan is a puppet of the U.S. Syria is a puppet of the U.S. Lebanon is basically racked by complete internal contradictions. Saudi Arabia is a puppet of the who is going to fight Israel? Turkey's a puppet of the U.S. or a U.S. ally. Maybe you could say Erdogan is a little bit more independent than a puppet. But who's actually going to fight Israel? Who's actually going to stand up to the United States? Which is what it would take. God damn, dude. That's just crazy, man. But there's one person who I've been a long-time supporter of, Sohran Mendami, and he is showing you what leadership looks like.
Conversation with someone who works in this media business or in political media who was saying that Andrew Cuomo is a shoo-in to win because
no fucking shot.
People remember him fighting Trump in COVID.
He might win, but he's not a shoo-in.
And people want somebody who's going to fight Trump. Now, I don't agree with that statement. I'm not trying to jinx anybody. God knows I did with...
Is that a Mandela effect about what he did during COVID? That was Disney adult liberals thinking Cuomo was doing a good job.
Right. Well,
during that period.
I don't agree with that sentiment, right? I mean, and
he killed people.
Yeah. And so... Sorry?
No, I was just going to say, although it is a good sort of microcosm for how, Democrats use Donald Trump as a way to rehabilitate their tarnished image.
Yes. And I just, my point really about that is that I don't necessarily think that people have that in their memory. If Cuomo does win, it will be because of name recognition and because of the legacy of his father, which was why he kept winning in New York in the first place.
Yeah, the machine.
And of machine politics, right. But I think the only way that Cuomo wins is if this is a lower turnout election. And given the rage that I'm seeing in this city and in the country more broadly, I don't think it's going to be a low turnout election. Cuomo could still win. But if you want somebody that's actually going to fight Donald Trump, I give you Zohran Mamdani, who yesterday confronted Tom Homan, the ICE.
This is why I still think Majority Report is great. Even though I strongly disagree with them on their takes that the Democratic Party is good, at least they're not endorsing like Stringer or something. You know what I mean? At least they're endorsing the most left-wing candidate who's viable. You know what I mean? Like that matters a lot to me.
Gestapo dude to his face. Democrats, you want someone that fights Donald Trump? Well, watch this.
How many more New Yorkers? How many more New Yorkers will you detain? How many more New Yorkers will you detain? Do you believe in the First Amendment? Do you believe in the First Amendment, Tom Homan? When we asked Tom Homan, all he had to answer for that cruelty was a smirk. Because there is no answer for taking a man from his pregnant wife, who is due to deliver their newborn child in a month, from their Columbia University apartment, a day after that same man, Mahmoud Khalil, wrote to Columbia University and said he feared for his life. The cowardice that is on display across our city and our state is unacceptable. New Yorkers are looking to us. They are looking to their leaders for courage and for conviction. And what they are finding instead is collaboration. And that is just simply unacceptable.
Zohran Mamdani for mayor. Folks,
I mean, did you see that?
I just want to get this out. I'm sorry. If you're just, this has to be said repeatedly in the coverage of this race, because I think a lot of people don't know how ranked choice voting works. You have to fill out all 5 slots to maximize the effect of your ballot. But if you don't want Cuomo to win, do not rank Cuomo as any of the 5 people. You can rank the other candidates, but make sure you fill out all 5 slots and put Zohran Mamdani at the beginning, at the top.
Connections you have.
We have a real chance to actually win this race. This is very reminiscent, in my view, of the AOC race, which also, at the time, the candidate she was challenging, gosh, it's like escaping me already right now, Crowley, was very reliant on low turnout to win his election. And a lot of the polls didn't have her down by around 20 points because they didn't account for the fact that so many people turned out for her to win that primary race. This is, I think, a very similar strategy that Zohran is deploying. And that was in Albany, by the way, because he's still an assembly member for District 36. So he was representing his district up there when he went after Tom Homan. This is the kind of guy who would actually fight Donald Trump. Your thoughts, folks?
Right. Oh, this has happened in the mayoral race recently, too, where the insurgent progressive won after standing up to, the powers that be. I mean, he ended up not being the best, but he was much better than the other mayors we had. And when Bill de Blasio first ran as mayor, he was the insurgent progressive who everyone said had no chance. And then he showed up to protests, and I think the one that was the jump off for him that got him attention was protesting the closure of a hospital in Manhattan.
Where did Zohran come from? I only found about him like 2 days ago. Okay, you've been following me since April of last year. He's been a longtime socialist politician in New York for, I don't know, what, like 6 years at this point, or was it 4? And we've talked about him dozens of times on the stream. That's who he is. He's in the state house of New York, and he's running for mayor of New York. You want to learn more? He talks about housing on this video. We watch it from time to time. I don't know if I want to watch the whole example, but God, it's such a good video. It's such a good
American
video.
housing is in crisis.
But I gotta pee.
Right now, up to 12 million Americans are behind an average of $5,800 on rent and risk eviction, With eviction moratoriums soon to expire, we're facing an unprecedented wave of evictions and foreclosures that will crash straight into millions of struggling families across the country. But the truth is, this crisis didn't begin with the pandemic. In fact, housing has been in crisis for a very long time. Even before the pandemic, in places like New York or Los Angeles or San Francisco, median rents for even one-bedroom apartments could approach $2,500 a month or more. About a third of people in Los Angeles spend a majority of their income on housing. In New York City, about 20% of all renters pay most of their income to their landlord. And in my district, Astoria, about a quarter of residents have to spend most of their paycheck on rent. And the crisis isn't just in big cities. In 95% of all US counties, workers making the minimum don't make enough to afford a one-bedroom rental on their own. The Harvard Center for Housing Studies warns of a new normal for housing in the United States, in which nearly half of all renter households spend almost a third of their income on rent. That's why even before the fallout from the coronavirus started to hit, more than 500,000 Americans nationwide were already homeless, millions more on the brink of losing their housing, and countless families struggling every month to make ends meet. At the root of all of this suffering is the fact that in this country, housing is treated as a commodity, not a right. It's a consumer product, just like clothes or cars, that private businesses can sell on the market to make a profit. And if someone isn't able to pay, either because their landlord raised their rent or because they can't work for one reason or another, they're not able to stay in their homes. If they're lucky, they can live with friends or family, or maybe in transitional housing for a bit. But for a lot of people, they have nowhere else to go, and they end up sleeping on the streets. In December 2019, the number of people sleeping in homeless shelters in New York reached 19,000 people, an all-time high. 100,000 New York City students are homeless. That's more than 10% of the entire student population. Why do so many people end up homeless? It's not because there aren't enough homes to go around. There are plenty of empty homes. No, it's because housing people is not the primary goal of developers or landlords. Their goal, simply put, is to make a profit. And it's much more profitable to build luxury apartments for the rich than decent homes for the poor. This gives us a big shortage of homes for ordinary working people. For every 100 households that are extremely low income, there are only 36 affordable and available homes. As a result, we have plenty of housing for the rich, but poor and working class people don't have nearly enough on the market. So we have people scrounging to make ends meet or sleeping on the streets right below luxury condos and uninhabited apartments. This is a terrible way to organize a housing market. It might be profitable for landlords and developers, but it's not efficient or beneficial for the rest of society. In fact, housing doesn't have to be seen as a market at all. In other countries, housing is considered a fundamental right, like education or healthcare. That means the government goes to significant lengths to guarantee everyone has a home, and the market plays a much smaller role in the construction and distribution of housing. So let's hop across the pond and about 100 years back in time to take a look at just one example of how an alternative housing model got started in beautiful red Vienna. At the end of the First World War, the Austro-Hungarian Empire collapsed, leaving behind a number of successor states, including modern-day Austria, home to the former imperial capital of Vienna, the 5th largest city in the world. Despite being the seat of an empire, the chaos of the war and decades of neglect had left the working class of Vienna in desperate circumstances. Inflation was rampant, jobs were scarce, social services were non-existent, and hundreds of thousands of people were crammed into decaying tenements where overcrowding, disease, and violence were rampant. So it's no surprise that in 1919, at the first elections ever held in Austria where all adult citizens could vote, the Social Democratic Party swept into power at the municipal level on the promise of dramatic social and economic reform. And they delivered. The new government of Vienna implemented a huge range of services, including public health care and public child care. They built high-quality hospitals, schools, and recreational facilities. But their crowning achievement was an ambitious program of social housing, what Americans call public housing, that began in 1923 and saw 60,000 new apartments constructed in the first year of its existence, built by the government and financed by taxes on the rich. But these weren't the kinds of apartments you might picture when you think of public housing in the United States. Drab high-rises plagued by chronic neglect and underinvestment. Residents could enjoy leafy courtyards, wide-open spaces, and plenty of natural light. They had shared laundries, state-of-the-art kitchens, food co-ops, bathhouses, pharmacies, lecture halls, schools, and swimming pools. These apartments were designed to be both beautiful to look at and beautiful to live in, fostering a sense of shared community among the people who lived there. And the best part was that because the city didn't have to worry about making a profit, just about paying off their maintenance costs, these homes were both much nicer and much cheaper than what workers had previously known. In 1926, the average rent in Viennese social housing was about just 4% of a monthly wage. The first 15 years after Austrian independence saw its capital transform from a symbol of urban blight into a beacon of socialist governance. It became known as Red Vienna, after the official color of the socialists who had pioneered these changes. And even though Red Vienna fell in 1934 when the country was seized by fascists, who did what they could to roll back social housing, that commitment to good, cheap housing remained after the Second World War. Today, an astonishing 62% of all city residents live in social housing, with the average monthly rent falling somewhere between $400 and $600 a month, with subsidies for lower-income tenants. That is a fraction of what people in America pay. Unlike in the United States, where public housing is treated as a worst-case way to house the very poor, Vienna's social housing residents are extremely diverse. Everyone except the top fifth of the population is eligible to live in social housing. This means there's broad appeal across many segments of society, which creates the foundation for its political popularity. That is how the majority of people in Vienna enjoy something that's considered almost utopian here in New York. Affordable housing that isn't just cheap, but desirable. Housing that isn't just four walls and a roof, but a real home, with a sense of stability, safety, and community built in. Now, of course, this is only one example of an alternative framework for housing. And Vienna has not fully removed housing from the domain of the market. Residents still pay part of their earnings in rent to cover operational costs, and a sizable chunk of the population lives in private housing. But it's an actually existing alternative that shows us what a step toward a better world could look like. If we want to end the housing crisis, the solution has to be moving toward the full decommodification of housing. In other words, moving away from the status quo, in which most people access housing by purchasing it on the market, and toward a future where we guarantee high-quality housing to all as a human right. So how can we do it? We can start by making sure people who access housing on the private market have ironclad protections against abuse and exploitation. But to go further, toward the Vienna model, we'll have to go beyond the market. We can establish community land trusts to gradually buy up housing on the private market and convert it to community ownership. We can give tenants a right of first refusal to buy out their landlords when buildings go up for sale. And we can fully commit to a new era of social housing, ending subsidies for luxury housing development and using our wealth to build beautiful, high-quality social housing projects that offer good homes and strong communities to everyone. We won't decommodify housing overnight, but we know what we have to do, and we have history to guide us. And we know how we'll get there, through a movement of the multiracial working class organizing for the better world we know is possible. And we've already begun. I'm Zohran Mamdani, Assemblyman for New York's 36th Assembly District in Astoria, Queens, for the Gravel Institute.
What a king. It's a shame, Senator Gravel died and the Gravel Institute is no longer hanging around.
And that was a big moment for him, and he won. He beat out Michael Bloomberg's literal next in line, and like the pick to like the establishment pick, like the one everyone thought was going to win. He beat her. It could happen again. So people should go out and vote for Zohran for sure, especially with ranked choice voting. The odds are especially in his favor.
And Bill de Blasio is a progressive, but I would say the candidate that's most like him in this race right now is Brad Lander, right? I mean, he's more of an in-between a Zohran Mamdani and an Andrew Cuomo. Right. And the point is that right now we have somebody who could be like an actual democratic socialist being the mayor of New York City, in the city in this country where rental prices are the highest, in a part of this city where over 50% of New Yorkers live well below the poverty line when you adjust for things like cost of living. There was an analysis done, I think it was by Robin Hood and one of the universities here in New York City. I can't remember off the top of my head. It is absolutely impossible for working families to live in the city that they're providing value for. And what Zoran represents with his rent freeze proposal and with his free bus proposal allows for there to be actual cost of living relief for people in this city, and not the corruption that has kind of embroiled us all here. I mean, and that Eric Adams represents so effectively, unfortunately. So I want somebody who's actually going to fight Donald Trump. And that's not some milquetoast liberal that does it for clicks or for a news conference or whatever. I mean, hey, he got attention for this. We love it. But he's backed it up both in the policy he supports, in his time in the state assembly, and then here with his campaign.
Right. So, hey, did you guys cover the talk about the Andrew Cuomo statement on
We didn't. It was ridiculous. I can pull it up here right now. It was completely mealy-mouthed.
Oh, no. There's an even worse statement now that came out after.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you want to put the mealy mouth one up so you can see just how bad he's even worse now.
He took it back.
He took it back. I'm gonna try to find.
So yeah, he Andrew Cuomo basically put out the type of on the Palestinian from Colombia.
I have it here. I have his initial statement. I'll just read it. The fear and terror stoked by many organizers on campus property against their Jewish classmates, in some cases condoning and supporting the terrorist organization Hamas, destroying personal and public property and harassing Jewish students is, and let's call it by its name, anti-Semitism, and I unequivocally condemn it. Constitutional rights are preeminent, and facts and evidence must be presented and weighed. There are real questions about the wider implications of this detainment. Real questions? This is like
pathetic. Portland, Oregon was once one of the top locations to live in the U.S. Thus, landlords say rent must be really high because supply and demand. But now it's like 80th, and we have more space available. Guess what? Rent never came down. Yeah, rent doesn't come down from the private market. It only comes down when there is a strong production of social and public housing to undergird the market and continue to produce more housing and more housing, more housing. Like, that's what you need. Or else the landlords will just sit there and collect rents.
The gravest threat to the First Amendment in terms of a case that I've seen in my lifetime. And the federal government and the courts need to be clear with the public about the justification for their position and actions. The rule of law matters, and we must never forget that regardless of the political view expressed, however abhorrent. So I stand for nothing and said nothing specific, basically.
Well, I mean, you say a lot when you say what Mahmoud stands for is abhorrent. It's not abhorrent, it's just.
Yes. And
anyone saying it's anti-Semitic or even bad or even that they don't agree with it is telling on themselves. This is, Mamdani has it exactly right. They're looking for courage. We are seeing collaboration. And people need to understand what that means. There are Democrats collaborating with fascism right now. That is the reality. This isn't a road to it. This isn't a road to authoritarianism. It is here.
It is here.
It is our lives right now. There are collaborators trying to help people be disappeared or putting up the barest amount of resistance and still be able to run in a Democratic primary to it.
They are caving to McCarthyism. That's what we're seeing right now. This is Zionism.
Which is what they did the last time too, by the way. That's what liberals did the last time too. They caved to McCarthyism last time.
Is the new McCarthyism attacks on disingenuous suppression of speech, of left-wing thought, and using national security, or in this case, trumped-up charges of anti-Semitism as justification for it. So,
yeah, Andrew Cuomo was criticized for that, like you said, like mealy-mouthed, like bullshit that he spewed, that he put out in a statement, and then apparently, his response is to actually double down and get even worse on it. There's no more mealy-mouthed. It's now this was his latest response that came after that on Twitter. All New Yorkers, including Jewish New Yorkers, deserve equal protection under the law. This is especially true in our schools, where every student should be able to learn free of discrimination, violence, and harassment. The anti-Semitic agitators at Columbia University and on campuses across the country have gone unchecked for too long. Wow. I mean, wow.
Unchecked for too long. You mean in November 2023, when Columbia University banned Jewish Voices for Peace and Students for Palestine? You mean that too long? Because Colombia cracked down on them extremely aggressively, including the Jewish organization that Cuomo was basically smearing as anti-Semitic.
Exactly. It goes without saying that the biggest danger to Jewish voices on that campus were the police who were brought in by Democratic mayors, Republican mayors alike, to essentially engage in violent repression of their right to protest. And, again, I hate to take a zoomed out image of this, but this is something that's going to spread. Right now, it's, anti-Semitic terrorism. And in 10 years, as the climate gets worse, it'll be eco-terrorism. And like the nebulous definition of terror will be used as it has been used for the past, at least my entire lifetime, to strip away the civil and human rights of people who are engaging in any sort of resistance from Western liberal or illiberal ideas. But in this case, the expansion of the American imperialist project as manifested in Israel specifically now. But again, who knows what that will look like in 10 or 15 years.
I want to play this then to that point. We just saw how Zoran here in New York reacted to this, but the Trump administration cracking down on free speech and using Mahmoud Khalil as basically the test case for how they're going to go after a variety of different protest movements is, I think, the right way to look at it. It's also just, I would say, been enabled by the Democratic Party and the kind of
oh yes,
yeah. I know you're not contradicting that, but here is Tommy Tuberville on with Fox Business, and Tommy Tuberville down in Alabama is just very concerned about anti-Semitism. But he's asked by the host of The Bottom Line on Fox Business about the detention of Mahmoud Khalil. And this is how he reacts. This is going to be, I think, this is the Republican line. This is how protesters should be treated.
As America's once great elite universities plummet to new lows, Senate Democrats are more concerned with securing the release of an alleged terrorist sympathizer than
sympathizer now. Now it's just sympathizing. I thought he did material support, so now it's gone from material support to sympathizer. He's a terrorist sympathizer now. He felt an emotion, guys.
Rebuilding our academic standards. Well, how about just not graduating kids from high school who are functionally illiterate? Senate Judiciary Democrats posted on X, quote, free Mahmoud Khalil. That was what they actually had the audacity. The Senate Judiciary.
I'm sorry. By the way, Alabama, 45th in the country in education out of 50. So they brought on the right guy.
It must be all the teachers' unions that are massively empowered in that state.
Yeah, at one point in the interview, Tuberville blames teachers' unions administrators for being the people that are not educating the population enough.
If they got rid of all of the functionally illiterate adults, who would watch Fox News?
I mean, come on. Tommy Tuberville would have to leave Congress. He didn't know what the three branches of government were just last year as a senator.
Tommy Tuberville quit and was paid like millions of dollars for it. Quit college football.
Yeah. DEMS. Are they like that in private too? Because that's atrocious.
Yeah, it's a shame. The Democrats basically, they don't like our country anymore. They just want to, tear it down. They're going to take this guy's side. Every Democrat that we work with up here, they're going to take this guy's side, and they're going to try to.
Sorry. This our country stuff. He's protesting Israel. That's not my country. I have nothing to say for Israel, actually. I would rather our government did less for them, frankly. And I think it's actually American to say so. And conflating America and Israel as the same thing, that's weird to me.
Well, they're both colonial. They're both colonial projects. They're ideological sisters.
Drive this narrative that he's doing the right thing. He's the people we should be backing. the heck with education. You know, we have two levels of education. We have K through 12 and we have higher ed. We've got to treat both of them different. But when it comes to protesters, we got to make sure we treat all of them the same. Send them to jail. Free speech is great, but hate free speech is not what we need in these universities.
Wait, I thought these guys were free speech absolutists. I thought they said marketplace of ideas. What? Hateful speech needs to be deported now?
And they don't need to be doing things that they're preaching from Hamas about anti-Semitism.
Oh, about antis.
He's not beating the allegations on that one.
Can we go back and play about anti-sediment, rock sediment?
Senator, let's move on to number
Just
three.
go back 5 seconds.
And Trump's tariffs.
Come on, player.
Don't need to be doing things that they're preaching from Hamas about anti-Semitism.
You know, as a senator from Alabama, I can tell you a thing or two about hate, right? I know anti-sediment when I see it down here in Alabama.
I hate anti-Semitism almost as much as I hate them Duke boys.
Oh, anyway, back to the anti-sediment.
Oh my God, man! Anytime the second you said Emma, you opened up this segment with here's Tommy Tuberville. That's all you need to tell me to know I'm about to hear the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life.
But it's all the administrators and the unions that aren't educating our kids. I'm sorry, Matt. Just really quickly, can you pull up his quote about? Or I'll just read it.
And I think like that's a pretty good place to call it there because it's so pathetic to see how the Democratic Party cannot even defend the First Amendment, and then they're immediately giving ICE the full funding they need to continue cracking down. How about while ICE is like kidnapping people off the streets for their speech, you stop funding ICE? I don't know, it might be a good idea. Have you seen this potential executive order that would put a $1.5 million fee on Chinese-made ships entering U.S. port? Most of the goods shipped across the oceans to and from the U.S. are in ships built in China, 51%, South Korea, 28%, or Japan, 15%. China today is the world's largest commercial shipbuilder, responsible for more than half of all shipbuilding. America's share of global commercial shipbuilding is a mere 0.1%. A libertarian radical sank America's maritime industry. It needs to be restored. Yeah. Unless you're going to nationalize it, it ain't going to happen. All right, chat. I think that's where I'm going to call it for today. Thank you for all the support. I want to remind you that today is Friday, and every Friday we do a movie. This week, we are watching the film No Other Land.
1,000 Palestinians face one of the single biggest expulsion decisions since the Israeli occupation of the Palestinian territories began.
هاي قصة عن القوة.
أنا اسمي باسل.
مسافر يطا هي المكان اللي كبرت فيه. بداية تصويري هي بداية نهايتنا. جرافات؟ أنا متسلم ادخل! في صوت بيطلع يعني مش ناس قاعدين يعني فيش بني ادمين. شو دخلوا؟
This is what's happening in my village now. Soldiers are everywhere.
يكون كثير حلو إذا بصير استقرار. بعدين انتوا بتيجوا تزوروني مش انا بزوركم ولا لا؟ ولا شو بتفكر؟ لو انت مكاني شو بتسوي؟
So we're going to be getting together. We're watching No Other Land tonight in the Discord. I'm going to throw the link in the chat right now. We do that at 6 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific on the Discord. Go ahead and there's something called announcements. Events, and you click and sign up for that, and then when it starts, you'll be auto invited in. We do that. We do that every Friday night. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for all the support this week, chat. Here's all my links. Blue Sky, YouTube, Twitter, Discord, TikTok. Make sure you hit the follow button on all that stuff. And stay safe out there. Look and see if your local organizations are running a, pro Mandami, protest this weekend. And because we have to get out on the streets this weekend and protest for his release. Either the First Amendment exists or it doesn't. I'm going to send you guys, gals, non-binary pals over to Vio, who's going to be playing some more gaming with Mike. We're going to be doing more gaming with Mike. So I'll see you in a couple minutes. And thanks so much for hanging out.
Victims of oppression, for the tyrants fear your might. Don't cling so hard to your possessions, for you have nothing if you have no rights. So come, brothers and sisters, for the struggle carries on. Listening to Mike from PA unites the world in song. So comrades, come and rally, for this is the time and place. Join the Central Committee and unite the human race. Down the bourgeoisie to see the end of capitalism. We must set Luigi free. Demand that health care be provided, as well as housing and food security. We'll build high-speed rails and revolutions with heads of billionaires and solidarity. We'll carry on. A gift up to Central Committee is one step closer to righting the wrong.